could, and your beard could be all up in this. No, but I'd rather not do that to our listeners.
Ooh, Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Have you seen the Flamin' Hot,
The Funyuns? Yeah.
Yes.
The Funyuns and Doritos?
Okay, you put that dirty mouth away. Because we're about to record a family-friendly podcast about Stranger Things.
Okay, I just want to shout this out, though. If you guys see me, like, messing up with my eyes, it's because my contacts are sticking to my eyeballs at the moment.
We'll leave that in so that our viewers on YouTube are aware that you're not schizophrenic or dilapidated in some weird way.
Or being possessed by a demon. That, like,
well, we know
Nick
that's...
is being right now.
I mean, Matthew, we know that's not possible. You're a damn ginger and soulless. So, shh. Ain't no demons possessing this soulless ginger.
I don't have red hair. I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyway. That being said, as Nick scratches all his possessions out. I don't know why I said that. If we're being honest, guys, I don't think that has much to do with what we're about to dive into today, Matthew.
We've heard of Stranger Things, though.
I mean...
You are so on the nose, Nick. So on the nose.
I was going to say, a lot of the stuff that in pop culture during the 80s had to do with Charles Manson.
But does the topic at hand mention anything about Charles Manson?
Probably not.
All right, then. I think we've got our...
Except for Charles in charge.
I think we've got some context here.
That's a different Charles.
But it's referring to...
Was there something you wanted to say, Joe?
Absolutely, Nicholas.
I have no idea.
On that note...
Oh, you stole my line.
For the last time. No. Let's jump into what this whole thing is about. Guys, welcome to Nerdentials, your weekly dose of the nerdy essentials covering film, TV, video games, and comic books. Although today is a slightly special occasion. Granted, a month removed from said event.
Hello Kitty Island.
No, God damn. Well, you know what? Actually, not. You know what? Matt's actually here for that.
I love that game.
But it's a movie.
It's also a game.
Okay, well, fair enough. But we're
Remember,
not, we're not gonna. Guys, I know we promised we would wait till Matt got here for that, but we had something else planned.
Oh, that's strange.
Yeah, it's extremely strange. About as strange as my introduction is going to continue. Guys, I'm your host, Joe Tweeden. Joining me today, literally in the studio, is the Matthew Johnson.
What? This is a studio?
Confused as ever, he's here.
Yes, we're recording.
Hey!
And yes, we're recording. Granted, you didn't even ask.
Stranger things have happened.
Stranger things continue to happen as I introduce my second cohort for the night, the Nick Thomas.
Cool.
Thank you. It's good to be here. It's been a while.
We're cohorting over something.
I didn't know this was a horde.
Hort.
Hort.
Cohorting.
Sorry.
Scheming over a specific concept or idea.
I thought we were gonna pillage and...
We're not doing either.
Please do not cadoodle.
Canoodle. That was... Anyway.
Either one, because no one wants to see that.
But I like noodles. Wait.
Fear not. Anyway, guys, you know what? I think we need to move forward, or this is just going to get tangled up in all sorts of confusion. I think we should let our listeners know...
I'm pretty sure...
what we're doing here tonight.
I've got no clue.
I'm glad you joined us. You're going to be very insightful. Or at the very least, Matt will be the voice of the audience.
And be like, what?
And, he can pose the questions, I guess.
No, when you do that, you gotta embrace your inner 80s and earlier and do the, what you talking about, Willis?
Is that appropriate for the timeline here?
No.
Yeah.
I
fine.
didn't think so. But I'm granted,
That was in the 80s.
context works.
Wasn't it?
Well, that's why I asked him.
Yeah.
I asked him, did it have anything to do with what we're talking about?
I was born in 84.
All right, guys. Let's just get into this thing already, shall we? We've referenced it. It's now been 2 years since our last deep dive. We've talked about doing other deep dives, and I really think we need to get back on track with offering those.
A year and a half, I think, actually. If you want to get technical. It was 2017, right? November.
It was October 2 years ago. So a year and 10 months.
We have given you more than a month to watch this. So with our deep dive here, just know we're going in dry and we're going in deep.
Yeah.
Super dry, super deep. Might flip a few things upside down. I don't know anything about tickling. And guys, this is our Stranger Things Season 3 Deep Dive. Or as we called it for Season 2, the Deep Cuts Edition. Matthew, thank you for the tickling of my beard. It served no purpose for the context of this show.
Except for humor.
But humor for anyone
That's
watching us on YouTube. Quick shout out, guys. This is a podcast, first and foremost. But secondly, we're also in video format on the YouTubes. So go ahead and search out Nerdentials on YouTube if you want to see our ugly mugs and some of the shenanigans that take place during said episode.
On the interwebs.
On the interwebs.
Don't do it. It's a trap.
I recommend
But
you
if
do it.
you don't want to go there, there is one awesome place you can go to, actually.
One major place. Nick, what is that?
It is nerdentialsmedia.com, where you can find our podcast and the video format, along with all our past episodes and reviews and everything else we do.
Articles and content for days.
Oh my.
Oh my. That being said, guys, let's get into this. Guys, I've been itching to talk about this since it came out.
There's an ointment for that.
Okay, well, I have utterly been intrigued and excited for talking about this topic. I gave a subtle review a couple episodes back of, spoiler-free, just my thoughts on the pilot. But guys, we are here to bust Season 3 of Stranger Things wide open.
Yeah, and you still didn't text me after you watched the last episode and gave me your,
And you know
action.
why? So that you can get the raw
But
feelings right now, Matthew. Are you ready for them? Here's the thing, guys. We're going to give you a spoiler-free introductory review here for season 3. And then we're going to do a spoiler warning alert as we recap season 1 and 2 in short, quick fashion. And then we're going to literally unpack and break apart all 8 episodes of season 3.
I think it might be beneficial for our viewers and listeners to lead them up to how we got to this point, actually.
Elaborate. Do you want me to recap?
Quick summary of
season
season 1, 2, and 3 so they know how we got here, just in case they did not watch the first 2 seasons.
Okay, not 3. We're not summarizing 3. We're gonna
I know.
review. We're gonna review 3 shortly after.
Okay.
word.
All right, well, guys, let's get into it. Let's bust out the first 2 seasons, and I mean, it's been 4 years since the premiere of season 1, guys. So I'm not giving you any. This is your spoiler warning. There will be timestamps in the description below on either the video or podcast version. So feel free to skip ahead or skip past any part that you think might be a spoiler to you. I'm going to leave it at that. Guys, a quick recap. I'll just read off what I have summarized here in our notes. Season 1 goes as such. So, Will Byers, a little boy, suddenly goes missing. The whole town of Hawkins, Indiana. Everything gets turned upside down, and many people are on the search for Will, including his mother Joyce, his brother Jonathan, and his 3 friends Mike, Dustin, and Lucas, along with a very charismatic police officer known as Chief Jim Hopper. A dark overlying conspiracy seems to take afoot throughout the season as this government agency with seemingly malevolent purposes, or unknown, I guess, at that point, deal with supernatural forces that seem to be converging on the town. Some of them begin to understand that there's more than meets the eye. And I made a very quippy pun last time about Transformers, since they're from the 80s.
Yes.
Sam Witwicky.
And none of you laughed. Of course, Matthew wasn't with us in that first deep dive.
Because he hates us.
Because I had other things going on at the time.
Let's not rip them apart right now. We're continuing. In the process of looking for their friend, Will, we meet a girl who, with a shaved head, who is then taken in by Mike and named 11 after her tattooed number on her wrist. Throughout the season, we see that she possesses telekinetic abilities and seemingly was experimented on by this government agency. Guys, remind me. I like the recap kind of ends there, but did Will come? He came back right in the finale, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They get him back in the last 2 episodes.
Last 2 episodes. It's the episode before the last one.
Right.
Because the last one, it's at the.
Yeah, and didn't at the so that was season 1, guys, basically. But just as like a small little detail recap, didn't it, like, kind of the last episode at the very end, didn't it kind of jump ahead to like kind of a little bit of a Christmas season, and didn't Will like puke up some weird slug thing into the sink before the end credits?
Yeah.
And, and that was like a dun dun dun.
And he saw what we have come to understand is called the Upside Down.
That's right. He was trapped in this alternate copy-like dimension of our world, but everything is like dead and shadowy and dark. And there's this unknown creatures that seem to live within this dwelling of the Upside Down. And that's right. At the end of, or was it? I might be jumping ahead. They don't encounter the full-size Demogorgon, do they? Right? Or was that true? Like, right?
Yes,
11,
they do.
Right.
Because that's.
They meet this creature at the school, and then 11 uses her powers to try to defeat the Demogorgon creature. And at the last second, she disappears with the creature, and the boys are left confused and like, where did she go? Our friend, right? That was the whole end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You meet it halfway through the season.
Right.
With a very awesome scene with a baseball bat with nails through it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I have a slightly lengthier, quick recap. It's still going to be quick because I'll just kind of read through the bullet points. Not as deep as our deep dive. Guys, quick shout out to our deep dive. I'll put a link in the description. Our older podcast, almost 2 years ago now, guys, episode 21 and 22 of the podcast, we did a Stranger Things season 2 deep dive. So if you want to get all the raw details of season 2, go back to that cast and listen through it. It's a couple hours of really good stuff. I recommend going to the YouTube channel. A lot of good cuts of scenes, video content as we do commentary. It was pretty fun. Matthew?
Was I there for that one?
No, that's one you unfortunately missed out on. We joked about it at the beginning of this recording.
No, I thought I wasn't there for season 1, but season 2 I think I was there for.
Here's the thing. No, season 1 we never did a deep dive. Because it was one of those shows where some of us were on top of it when it first came out, but we never covered it as a show. Like, Nerdentials never covered it.
But season 2, we got all deep down in there.
Season 2, we went super deep. So, guys, quick recap. Here is Season 2 recap starting now. I'm going to jump into this. So, here we go. Season 2 introduced a new evil, the Mind Flayer, or the Shadow Monster. It's basically a giant, horrifying spider that's larger than the entire city of Hawkins. The Mind Flayer controls the Upside Down and everything inside of it, presumably, from the Demigorgons to the vines that were growing throughout the fields. In Season 2, the monster took over Will's body until the end of the season when Joyce used heat to draw it out. 11 was able to seal the gate to the Upside Down, trapping the Shadow Monster and the Demigorgons with it. Or so they think. Dun dun dun. In the final scene, I'm just going to jump around a little bit, guys, to give you the summary here, but in the final scene of Stranger Things Season 2, we actually see the Mind Flayer looming over Hawkins yet again.
In the Upside Down.
Yes. A quick recap. Season 1 ended with everyone thinking 11 was freaking dead. And thank goodness she wasn't. Because in Season 2, Elle is hiding from the government and eventually ends up living with Hopper, who becomes such a helicopter parent that Elle ends up running away. She finds her biological mother, discovers there were more children in the Hawkins lab with her when she was growing up. 11 then finds a group of them, but her excitement to meet people similar to her is short-lived after she realizes they're a little too obsessed with seeking revenge on former Hawkins lab employees. And also, 11 discovers that Papa is still alive. Maybe? We got a little bit of a glimpse in that, that basically the lead guy that basically sheltered her and was kind of getting her into these experiments, she knew as Papa. Nick, you're completely fine. I'll mute, cut out your truck or whatever if there's anything going on in the background while I read through this. Meanwhile, Dustin and Lucas spent Season 2 fighting over the new kid, Max, a.k.a. Maxine, played by Sadie Sink. Yeah, it's a whole thing through the whole season. Dustin also finds a slug, names it Dart, then discovers it's actually a baby Demigorgon that ends up killing his mom's cat.
Yes, which was freaking hilarious.
Rest in peace.
I mean, I find it hilarious, but yeah,
it was a little funny. There was some humor put into that. Meanwhile, Mike spends the majority of the time trying to reach out to Elle, who he believes is still alive. Poor Will is possessed. This kid needs some time off. And in literally the greatest character evolution of all time, this is one of my call-outs personally. In literally the greatest character evolution of all time, Steve becomes an older brother figure to the boys, especially Dustin. I heard someone coining the phrase Dad Steve. I think reminiscent Babysitter's Club here. But honestly, I think all of us couldn't stop thinking about Steve helping Dustin with his hair and driving him to the snowball, crying.
it's a bromance.
It's a bromance. It was wonderful. It was beautiful. That's Season 2 in a nutshell.
Deep down, Steve's a big nerd, and Dustin kind of brings that out in him in that whole.
And we can't forget that the school dance in the end scene resulted in Maxine and Lucas hooking up.
Well, they not hooking up, but kissing.
Nicholas,
meaning
they're middle schoolers.
Boyfriend,
girlfriend. None of them are having sex.
Well, I'm just saying.
If anyone is watching our podcast and has already watched the show, I think it's safe to say that this is a fan cast and a safe place for us to just use random commentary and explaining our excitement for the characters. Because no one who has no idea about what this show is going to be clicking on us and listening to this. As a side note,
I mean, they could. Just to try to figure out what Stranger Things is.
But continue. Sorry.
Anyway, you're fine. Yeah. So I mean, Max and Lucas
End up
get
being
together and kiss
Yes.
at the dance. And Eleven and Mike share their first dance / kiss. Dustin and who's still getting rejected by all the hot chicks, poor kid, is shown a little grace from Mike's sister Nancy, who offers him a dance, and she's one of the popular kids in that high school at this time, and so a bunch of the girls that rejected him are giving her nasty looks like, what? Why is she dancing with him? Right? And then as we pull away from the end of that season, we've got the freaking we flip to the upside down and we see the Mind Flayer, this ghastly spider creature looming over the school.
Well, you also see Will walking out from the school, and
sensing
yeah,
the Mind Flayer at that point. Yeah,
because he could still feel it in his
Will was possessed. They freed him from the possession by overheating his body and getting that dust cloud of whatever to fly out of him, seemingly into the abyss.
Right.
And then everything's okay. So guys, that is the season 1 and season 2 recap. Stranger Things season 3, guys. This is our spoiler-free review. Who would like to jump in first? The thunderstorm hasn't left, Nick. It's coming back.
What the heck?
Sorry. Go on. We'll be quiet if you start. You want to start?
Yeah, season 3. It seems like some time has passed. We get an inkling of exactly how much time has passed in the opening credit scene, because it tells us what date it is. But some time has definitely passed. The kids are a little bit older. Things have progressed with relationships, whether it be boyfriend, girlfriend, or even relationships with daughter, father type thing. And people are getting on with their lives. There is a feeling overall throughout the beginning of the season that everything is okay and everyone's going to be okay, and they've kind of moved past this whole shenanigans that's been their life. As people saw from the preview, the trailer for season 3, there is a new mall, which harkens back to the 80s, very big, for the sheer fact that's where everyone spent their time. And now for the small town of Hawkins to have one, there's somewhere that people can actually get together and spend money and joke around and do their thing.
Not just a mall, but one of the first for the decade.
Yep. One of the most expensive and largest.
Every time I hear the whole 80s mall thing, I kind of go back to How I Met Your Mother. And what's her name doing? Let's go to the mall.
Robin Scherbatsky, shout out to all you How I Met Your Mother fans.
It's when I first saw that mall scene, I was just like, "That's what popped in my head."
What was her name?
I said the one.
No. Her
actual.
Her.
Oh no. Yeah.
Her pop star name.
Oh, that's
something Sparkles.
Yeah, it was something Sparkles.
Robin Sparkles.
Was it? I think it was. Let's leave that alone. Let's let Nick.
That's like a side tangent, but
thank you for reminding me of a very good show.
Fantastic show. Anyway.
This season harkens back to the nice 80s nostalgia that the show is very known for, and they continue putting in a lot of detail and character into this. The nostalgia itself to me is a character of the show.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
I could honestly say this season, where I've said, I talked to Joe about this. My kind of spoiler free with kind of giving a feel of what this season goes like. Season 1, you kind of have the adventure conspiracy nut job season, and that's what's going on there. with a little bit of the wee craziness. Uh, season 2 kind of embraces uh, the suspense side of it, and it's building. Where season 3 for me is they finally get to what they're trying to and embrace the horror genre. They've given you time to grow up with these kids, learn their thoughts, habits, and hangups and everything there. And season 3 just dives into a horror film, just in the middle of tranquil Hawkins, Indiana. It's the way I would describe it. But there's a lot of new characters. There's a lot of expounding upon old characters that you didn't think were going to get some spotlight, which is awesome. And like I said, the Easter eggs keep coming, and we're going to go about over those through each episode. And I'm going to say, for my review of it, this was probably my favorite season out of the 3.
I can dig it.
A fair assessment, sir.
Definitely a fair assessment.
If you don't mind, on a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being the, oh my god, I will rip your eyes out if you don't watch this at least 20 times. I'm kidding. What do you give it, sir?
I can't give everything a perfect, so this season is going to get a 9 for me.
Highest of regards still, especially from a Sir Nicholas.
Yes.
I
It had everything I wanted in it. Because I'm too analytical, there was some slight faux pas about the 80s that they messed up on, but we'll get into that.
As always.
But they put so much detail into it, and I loved it. But I can honestly say this is one of my favorite shows. And they progressed it to a point where I felt it was a healthy evolution of the show.
I concur, sir.
Beautiful. That being said, Matthew, I want to toss it over to you for your spoiler-free review.
So, this one time at
Wrong franchise.
Oh, sorry. No. So...
I don't want to know where you put the flute.
It was a trumpet. Sorry. Anyways.
Oh.
And on that note. No, this season... Season 2 was definitely a build-up for this season, and you could see the progression going towards this season. I kind of think that, in my opinion, it went a little too fast with some of the things that was going on. But at the same time, we didn't really need any character development. Everything was pretty set forward from the last season.
Coming in
right
from the last 2 seasons.
Yeah. The only person I would say that needed possibly some more time would be Billy, but that's just a whole. Yes. Oh, okay.
Breakdowns for later, Nicholas.
Yes.
Personal opinions here.
Just
go on,
just
Matthew.
My personal opinion. I believe that I would agree with this one being my favorite season. I love everything that was inside the mall because it was definitely nostalgia, like Sam Goody and freaking just everything.
Overload.
Yeah, Chips Ahoy.
Waldron Books? What's a bookstore?
Right. But it's if you're going into this season without watching the first 2 seasons, I suggest at least going back to season 2 just so you can see where the progression comes from. Because if you drop into this not knowing exactly what happens, you're gonna be confused. The father-daughter aspect has definitely taken a new height in this season, and you can see the heartfelt that Hopper has now rather than before. He was not that carrying throughout the other 2 seasons, but now you can see like at least some heart behind what he's trying to do, which is a good thing. And then, yeah, some of the bromance returns and is even stronger than before in this whole episode, like whole season. And Steve has turned into like one of my favorite characters, hands down. Along with Dustin. And yeah, that's about it for me.
1 to 10, Matthew.
I would give it a strong 8.5. It was lacking. I will get into it later.
Okay. All right. Well, I asked you for specifics, but we're trying to be spoiler free here. So
The only thing I got to say is, with my assessment of how it was building differently, Matt said something that actually stuck in my mind, and I had actually thought of this before.
Okay.
It followed a formula to me that Star Wars did. First one, you get introduction to everything and the whole ordeal and idea of what everything is. Second was world building. Third, you bring it to a final confrontation between good and evil. Like Return of the Jedi.
Fair enough.
And it kind of fits because they were actually trying to model this after the very 80s tropes of trilogies. And that's how they went.
Ironically, that's when Star Wars came out.
Yep.
No.
Sorry for interrupting.
Late 70s, early 80s.
Well, yeah.
78, 82,
I thought it was
and 80.
76, 78, and 81.
Well, 80, regardless, was the last one.
I could be
it
wrong.
Touched the 80s,
I could be
Matthew.
wrong.
We're not... Wow. I should probably cut that out so none of us are embarrassed. Because you don't trust yourself, I don't trust myself. We're cutting
May
that
25th,
shit.
1977.
You're rating something right now. Your eyes are looking down at something right
Yes.
when you said that.
I was bringing it up for you. So, first one was May 25th, 1977.
79.
Empire Strikes Back was May 21st, 1980.
80 and
Okay.
82.
And Return of the
Or
Jedi
83.
was May 25th, 1983. They all
Yeah.
came out in May.
Yes.
Of
And they
those
were almost
respective
3
years.
years apart, yeah.
Yep.
77, 83. Okay.
It's an 80s thing. It's
Okay,
the beginning of the
okay,
80s.
my bad.
Anyway, coming
Hey,
out of the
you know what?
70s, you know. Anyway, all right. Now that we scored that away.
It would be more better, like just going along with, like Ghostbusters.
Which wasn't a trilogy.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, anyway.
Which, by the way, their second one's actually coming out. No, anyways.
Let's come back to that another time. Guys, my spoiler-free review shall start as this. Stranger Things, Season 3. Quick context. For the first 2 seasons, I loved Season 1.
Damn. Sorry.
And I thoroughly, nearly loved every aspect of Season 2. And I understand some of the shortcomings that a lot of the fan base might have felt, but the grander scheme of things told me that I absolutely love, personally, Season 2. Now, jumping into Season 3, as a whole, beginning to end, is currently and now for will ever be up to this point my favorite. When we look at the arc of the entire show from beginning to now, Season 3 is my favorite. When we look at the individuality of seasons, I still place Season 1, and I stand by this to the very end, as being my favorite, because it was, in my opinion, as nostalgic of a kickback as it was, Season 1 was, in my opinion, for the show as it is, the first of its kind in the story it's trying to tell. The characters that we're getting connected with, It was a very unique concept beginning to end. It was a very cohesive concept beginning to end. And that's why number one hits so high on my board. However, season three, looking at the series as a whole, is my current favorite season because it took everything that it learned from season one and two, and it brought the writers, the Duffer Brothers, brought it back to the core of what made Stranger Things season one so addicting, admirable, nostalgic, connective, and cohesive. It took the overall concept of following a group of friends through a crazy adventure and leading them not only through deeper growth but through a deeper journey. And I think season three was a nice segue into whatever we're gonna get for season four. Um, but overall, let me put it this way: season three was a nice callback to what made season one so great. It was an incredible, nostalgic nosebleed of 1980s pop culture. Um, I mean, you could. It literally centered on the year of 1985. My not only my birth year, but the year of several huge pop culture iconic hits, the likes of which would call any of your parents back or any of us back if your guys are in your late 20s and 30s to the likes of Terminator and Back to the Future. I mean, that's just a couple huge callbacks among the many that happened throughout that year. This film was sorry, I call it a film because I feel like 8 episodes. It had such a good beginning, middle, and end throughout all the episodes. Um, the story is great. The characters were great, well paced. It kept me going. Like, nostalgia aside, just the story of following where these characters are at, the overlooming darkness of what can we expect from the Upside Down now. We get introduced, in season one, and then season two, it's like, oh, there's something bigger and greater here, and season three kind of brings it to the forefront of our reality. Like, it's not just and we'll dive into the breakdown later without spoiling anything. I'll just say that season three brought in the next level for our characters. It introduced us to, and I mean, some might argue the age jump is a little far for it, presumably being only a year later, which the timelines do dictate. But I mean, we also have to account for growth spurts. Kids do kind of shoot up quickly, at times, but they definitely feel more like teenagers than they do middle schoolers at this point. Not necessarily a criticism, just an observation. And I love where all the characters started and where they're at this point. And the end of the season, without spoiling anything, surprised me and brought me to an emotional point. Like previous 2 seasons, it's all excitement, adventure, ups and downs, some emotion, and the upside down. Yes, Nick. But season 3 surprised me. I've watched the season twice. I know Nick has watched it multiple times, but yeah, stop with the finger counting. Yeah, but like even going back through it, I cannot believe how. I'm not trying to spoil anything, but I got choked up, and we'll talk about it in the dive here. But like, they managed to get me excited, intrigued, and legitimately attached to the characters to a point where I found myself in a very emotional, choked up point towards the end of the season. a place I didn't expect to get at with this show. So I'm really interested in season 4. I can't wait to see what they have in store, and we're gonna dive into that shortly here, guys. So for me, and yeah, I will admit it's not a perfect season, but it's exceptional, and for that, I personally give it a 9.5.
So we got a 9.5, a 9, and what did Matt give it?
Give
8.5.
8.5.
So that puts it at a 9. Collectively for the nerds, we have a 9.
Collectively, the nerds give season 3 a 9 overall. Hope you guys are okay with that.
It's high ratings.
Yeah, good ratings. Incredible show.
Cisco and Ebert, eat your hearts out.
That's right. Guys, we're now at our next juncture. To basically jump into this full-heartedly. This is going to be the second half of the show. We're almost an hour in. That's why I'm putting timestamps in, all you listeners, because I know if you don't want to be here for the whole thing, you can be here for the breakdown right after this alert.
Warning. Spoiler alert. Warning. Spoiler alert. You have been warned.
Guys, I'm going to bust out the casting for this season. We're about to dive into each episode here, 8 episodes long. Cast starts with Winona Ryder. What? I think. Sorry, Nick. What?
I was going to say, when you start saying who they are and what they're from, I was going to throw in what people might know them from.
Oh, I mean, we can do that, but let's tighten up the cast a little bit, because you're going to give us Easter eggs in each episode. Hey, this is the 3rd season. It's a deep dive. Most people know who these people are at this point.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
All right. Winona Ryder, guys. Joyce Byers, the mother
Of Will Byers.
of Will Byers. Oh, snap. David Harbour as Jim Hopper. And okay, I mean, if we're gonna give a little quick side tangent, yeah, David Harbour recently in the completely blockbuster bust failed Hellboy, and oh yes, also all 3 seasons of this show. And guess what? He's in what's that new movie he's in right now? Nerd Card Revoked.
I don't
All I
know.
got to say is I love the Hellboy remake. He did better than Ron Perlman for me.
A lot of people disagree with you. I haven't seen it, so I can't agree or disagree, Nick.
Yeah, I can't disagree or agree. But
Noah Schnapp as Will Byers. Millie Bobby Brown reprising her role as 11, a.k.a. L. Finn Wolfhard as Mike Wheeler. That kid's not only getting huge from puberty, but he's also growing in the film industry. He's going to make some flashback reoccurrences in It Chapter 2, the Stephen King remake. Anyway, moving forward. Gayton,
Not Itch. It. Chapter 2.
I said It. I didn't say Itch.
itch.
You know what?
Oh,
You fumbled it. It's okay.
You know what?
it happens.
We'll play back that beautiful footage. Gaten Matarazzo as Dustin Henderson. Caleb McLaughlin as Lucas Sinclair. Sadie Sink as our redheaded Maxine. Charlie Heaton as Jonathan Byers. Natalie Dreyer as Nancy Wheeler. John Kerry.
Joe Carey.
God damn it.
Let's get ready to fumble.
Joe Keery as Steve Harrington himself, the bromance at
Yes.
Bay. And Dacre Montgomery as Billy, Maxine's stepbrother, Billy, a.k.a. the asshole,
And the Red Power Ranger.
and the Red Power Ranger from the latest film.
Which they're actually remaking Power Rangers with none of these people that played them.
Well, that's all hearsay. Let's come back to it at a
Anyways.
later time in Nerd News, which is not this episode.
And we got some new and recurring characters.
We do have some new characters for Season 3. We have Maya Hawke as Robin Buckley, a.k.a. the daughter of Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman. Anyone that didn't know that? Yeah, she's actually been in a couple things lately, and in another movie coming up. Priya Ferguson as Erica Sinclair, the oddie, mouthy sister to Lucas.
She was annoying when we first saw her in this season, but I came very close to loving her at the end of this. It was awesome.
There's some redemption in her annoyance, absolutely.
Yeah.
Then we have Cara Bono as Karen Wheeler. She's kind of like Billy's
Stacey's mom?
little fantasy. Who?
Stacy's mom?
Nancy.
No. Stacy's mom has
got it going on. She's all I want.
Mrs. Robinson?
Oh my god.
There you go.
Sorry. I should not be leading this nostalgic bust. Okay. Brett Gelman, the returning Murray Bauman investigator, conspiracy theorist, hater of Russians.
Wisecracking, smartass news reporter.
A handful of additional recurring characters, just quick list off. We do have the science teacher, Mr. Clark, Randy Havens, returning for, sadly, only one episode, but we do get to see him again. Carrie Elwes, or Elves, or Ools, as Mayor Larry Klein. Mm-hmm. Andrew Ivchenko. Russian.
As Grigory.
As Grigory. Ms. Doris Driscoll by Peggy Miley. And Francesca Reale. I am so bad with names. I usually check up on these. She plays Heather Holloway, the lifeguard co-worker to Billy. Alright, guys. I'm going to list out the plot. Nick's going to give out some Easter eggs. We're going to give our general thoughts per episode and keep moving on. What's up, Nick?
I'll hold up my finger when I got an Easter egg for you.
All right. So you want me to just go bullet point, and you'll hold up your finger when you want to spit out an Easter egg?
Rocked Casbah.
All right, guys. Chapter 1 starts with Susie, do you copy? We get a very specific date here, guys. A little bit of a flashback scene on June 28th, 1984, which ironically is only a couple months before Season 2 starts. So that's kind of give you a little context, because this happened during Halloween of Season 2 last year. That's when the season took place. Now we got a flashback to summer of 84, where a Soviet general gives a group of scientists a year to develop technology to force open a portal to the Upside Down. Finger 1. Nick, go.
They actually did this in a very clever nod to a film that came out in the summer of 84 called Red Dawn, which happens to be about the Russians invading the U.S.
Yes, this is not only Hollywood historical, but it's also very politically topical.
Yes.
And another Easter egg to go along with that, in that opening scene, something happens and the tall Russian guy is not happy with it, and very Darth Vader-esque chokes the living snot out of one of the scientists. And they actually modeled it directly after A New Hope scene in the beginning when Darth Vader chokes
one of the
French captain.
Yeah, one of the captains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is a lot of 80s movie callbacks throughout, as you guys will notice as we read through this.
There's definitely.
Moving on, Nick.
Go ahead.
All right. A year later, summer of 85. In Hawkins, the new Starcourt Mall has caused other town shops to close down, angering townspeople. Now, I could read through the rest of this, and then you could give me the mall. You want to wait for that? Because there's a lot of hits.
Yep.
Okay. Guys, a lot of callbacks, a lot of pop culture references, but we'll finish the plot here. Mike
Go for the plot of episode 1, and I'll go through Easter eggs I have for episode 1.
Okay. Mike and Eleven have developed a romantic relationship, and Hopper talks to Joyce, seeking advice on how to split the two apart, because he's not having it. She suggests he write a heart-to-heart speech for Eleven Obviously, a bit of a challenge for the masculine sheriff of the town. Dustin comes back from summer science camp and encourages Mike, Will, Lucas, Eleven, and Max to help set up a makeshift radio so he can contact Susie, a girl he met at camp. We'll break that down in a minute. One night, the power goes out across Hawkins, which shakes Will, and at a nearby abandoned steel mill, a strange entity appears. Meanwhile, Nancy has started a job at the local paper under editor Tom Holloway and co-worker Bruce. She secures a tip about a strange event, and then to cap off the episode, Dustin records a strange transmission coming through his transmitter of a man speaking Russian. So we'll break down our thoughts in a second on this episode, Nick, but give us some of your callbacks. What do we got on this episode here?
Well, the tall Russian guy, the baddie, that you see in the beginning is actually modeled after our very own Arnold Schwarzenegger, who starred in his movie The Terminator in 1984. And his mannerisms, the way he is, the way he moves around, the whole biker mantra he kind of has throughout the whole thing, it's very Terminator. He's to the point, and that's what he is. They built him directly off the Terminator. Now, you said Dustin comes back from science camp. Well, here's another Star Wars reference. As he's coming back, Dustin returns, and as he's coming through, he says on the radio, "Gold Leader returning to base." Can anyone remember what that's from?
Yes, that's the Death Star trench run from episode 4.
No, Battle of Endor.
Sorry.
1983, Return of the Jedi. Lando Calrissian. That's his call sign, Gold Leader. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the mall, as you're talking about, there's a few things going on there. A lot of things are pointed to let us know exactly what time it is, and they kept very time accurate for it. The kids are sneaking into a screening of George A. Romero's Day of the Dead, which came out in the end of June '85. And another reason why they probably highlighted that is the composer John Harrison's score for the film was a big inspiration for the Stranger Things theme.
Right.
Their music. And then as you're going through the theater, as you see them walk by, you see Cocoon and Back to the Future. Both came out in '85, right there. Now, 11, Millie Bobby Brown. You actually see her room, and they don't make a pop culture reference. They make a reference to what's going on now, which I'm completely okay with. But they called back to what she's doing. If you look in her room, on the wall, you see pictures of dinosaurs and butterflies. And the way they're set up on there, they strangely reminiscent of Godzilla and Mothra. And they did this on purpose to highlight what that film was for her. And she had just done for this. The Duffer Brothers were very proud of what she had gone from going through from their film to that.
Yeah, 'cause she co-stars in that movie.
Yep. In this first episode, we see clear callbacks to Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh yes.
When you first see Billy in this episode, you see Billy come out of the pool with the song "Moving in Stereo" by the Cars being played. Now, in this part, there was a dream sequence in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and the person coming out of the pool was actually her character, played by Phoebe Cates, who everyone says that Susie, what's her name?
Dustin claims
Dustin's girl looks like. But that same song was playing, and it was just a gender swap of the same role. He moved and came out the same way, everything. Another thing you see here is his car. His car is an exact model of the '79 Camaro from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Lots of callbacks here.
And you see, this is the first glimpse you see at the poolside. What's her name? Karen. The mother, Nancy's mother. Karen sitting by the pool drinking a can of a very infamous drink that was such a flop, people asked for them to go back to the original recipe. It was a can of New Coke.
Oh, New Coke.
Yep.
Yes, New
Yes.
Coke, which, by the way, was a little bit more sugary and tasted awful because I actually bought the stuff from the. Anyways,
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, it's not
the
the
last
same.
one for this, if you look as the new entities there, you see rats flocking, just a whole bunch of rats in the basement going through. This is a callback to 1970s Stephen King's short of Graveyard Shift. Mutating rats that would eat people and stuff like that.
Oh, snap.
Mhm.
Is that it for references?
That's it for references for
All right.
episode 1.
Guys, overall, episode 1. Now, I didn't give any negatives in the review, and I guess I meant to post at least one, but I want to say probably the least. I think there's some good aspects about this small arc within the story, but it was probably the weakest of all the character developments, and that was just Nancy and Jonathan's growth was minimal in the season. If I was going to complain about anything, it still had some intriguing aspects of the time and era. Example, Nancy and Jonathan both getting a job at this newspaper company. She wants to be a journalist or a reporter, and it's basically a male-led industry at this point in time. And she's just the coffee girl, just the person that goes and gets their lunches and their coffee. And you definitely, it's very showcased here that of her general mistreatment, them poking fun at her, trying to take initiative about stories that's interesting, and there's just a little bit of development here, nothing too heavy yet. But that's something I noticed right off the back is that she's in a man's industry here, where she's working under Tom Holloway, and where they mention her coworker Bruce. Both guys are like complete douchebags to her in this. Just the first few minutes of the scene where they show her there. The makeshift radio, the callback thing, I thought that was fun. And I think it's hilarious. Even though he doesn't have bro chops, Dustin still gets berated by his bros, like where they don't completely believe in this girlfriend that he met at camp, and he calls her as hot as, what was that from Ridgemont High reference? Yeah, he says it's like her, only hotter, and it's like none of them believe it at this point. So I love all of that. Yeah, I don't know. I loved episode 1. What did you guys think overall? Episode 1.
I'm right there with you. I liked it. It was a nice dip your toes in the water start for the season.
It kind of brought back the fun of the friendships right at the beginning. Matthew?
Yeah. I would have to say, like, all the music for this first episode was on point. Like, you had Hot Blooded playing when Mrs. Wheeler was swimming in the pool. Billy was looking on. You got Nancy rushing into the freaking work with Working for a Living by Huey Lewis.
Yeah, that's the other thing that that this season just amplified even more than season 2, is just all the context heavy songs, not just because they were massive hits, but everything was like literally the words to every song was like literally hitting on the beats of whatever the plots were.
Yeah, and then like Hopper being mad at Elle and Mike kissing, and Mike playing the song in the background, "Can't Fight This Feeling Anymore" by REO Speedway.
Yeah.
This episode brought our first flub too.
All right, throw it out there.
First flub: Nancy Wheeler's car is a 1988 Volkswagen Cabrio.
Yep.
Oh snap! Here we go, right in episode 1. And I forgot to cap the episode. I forgot the cliffhanger scene is actually Billy later drives by the mill, the paper mill. He hits something, gets out of his car, and then finds himself dragged inside the paper mill by some unknown entity. That was actually kind of like the cliffhanger scene. I forgot to mention that. Also, quick little like topical moment where Dustin didn't he present the Russian transmission recording, or was that not? That's further on. Huh? I might be jumping ahead.
This is when he caught it.
Okay, all right. Let's jump into chapter
And then
2.
he kind of does that whole "holy smoke" type thing.
Right. And he realizes it's Russian speak. Okay, chapter 2.
On his radio, that he in fact calls Cerebro. Nice call over
Right,
to X-Men.
Yeah, that was cool.
Sorry, I was just thinking about Steve and Dustin with the whole like lightsaber scene.
Okay, that comes in, I think,
Yeah,
in
it comes in
episode 2
later.
here. So
Yeah.
let's jump in. No, I love
Episode
that too.
2.
Yeah. Chapter 2, the Mall Rats, which in and of itself didn't come out in the 80s, I don't think, but it is still a reference to pop culture, and Kevin Smith is a huge pop culture proponent, and one of his earliest films is Mallrats. So this is kind of a callback to that, not era specific exactly, but
Still a good movie though.
still a fantastic movie, and it's all about pop culture and conversation at the mall.
Let's go to the... Sorry.
Mall! Billy is dragged into the Upside Down, where he encounters his doppelganger. This was interesting, but we'll dive into that in a second. Instead of having a heart-to-heart, Hopper tries to distance Mike from Eleven. That's an understatement. Later, Eleven and Max run into Mike, Will, and Lucas at the mall, where Eleven breaks up with Mike. Another thing to unwrap there. Moving on, Nancy and Jonathan follow up on their lead and find Miss Driscoll had caught a rat that was eating her new fertilizer. When they're not looking, the rat implodes into an amorphous organic mass and escapes. That was interesting. Hopper asks Joyce on a date, but she gets caught up in discovering why all the magnets lost their magnetism and misses the dinner. And this is our teacher, Mr. Clark, encounter. Dustin, with the help of Steve and his coworker Robin, translate the Russian sentence. Steve discovers that the song Daisy Bell, heard in the background of the Russian message, is identical to the music played from a toy horse in the originated locally rather than from Russia. Meanwhile, wrapping this episode up, Billy struggles with nightmares during lifeguard duty, and guided by a strange voice connected to his doppelganger he saw in the Upside Down, he abducts fellow lifeguard Heather Holloway and takes her to the mill to be possessed by the entity there. Further unfoldings. Guys, how do you want to do this? You want to just let's unpack this a little bit, or do you want to list off the references for this episode?
Let's go ahead and unpack it, then I'll do some references.
Okay. All right. Right off the back, Billy getting dragged down and sees his doppelganger. I was like, this is different. This is something we haven't seen in any of the previous seasons. A literal copy of himself in the Upside Down. And so I was left... What?
Not one, but many.
Well, was it an army of himself? I didn't think so. I thought it was a bunch of people.
One of him and everyone else was different people.
Yeah, it was just one of him.
No, it looked like a bunch of him.
Shall I cue up the scene? Because
Yeah.
I'm very...
Please do.
All right.
Probably on your phone so your computer don't crash.
Oh, it's fine.
I'm joking.
I mean,
No, he's not.
hold on.
I do see a couple of women in there.
There's different shapes, so I don't know if they ever show any clarity. But you see, yeah, there's a random assortment of clothing types. And that's all you see. But you do see some trench coats and some others in the shadows.
I could have sworn I saw more
I'm pretty
than
sure they're
one.
different people that have been taken by the Mind Flayer.
Yeah.
But at that point, he only taken him.
No.
Just because
not
this some
necessarily.
people have been taken this time doesn't mean it hasn't happened in the past.
This is here's the thing.
Oh, that's true.
No, consider this as of December when he spit up the slug, or when they burned it out of Will. There's been almost an entire, at least 6 months of time has gone by where that entity has been rummaging around.
Yeah, true.
There's 6 months that this has been going on before we're led to the character that connects to the kids, which is Billy.
I could have swore like it goes back to that scene, and it's a bunch of him.
Will
I don't.
I know. I get the idea or what the thought is behind that happening, but yeah, we'll explore it later.
I'm gonna have to
But-
rewatch it now.
Bottom line, moving on. So we see the doppelganger. That in itself is different and unusual for what we've known from the Upside Down up to this point. The heart-to-heart Hopper, just being overly protective of 11. And Joyce gave him advice, and he couldn't do it. And in between these bullet points, he basically comes up with a lie to get Mike to get out of the house. He says he's going to drive Mike home, saying that his Nana's sick, which was a lie. And then he just kind of flips on him and threatens him and says, if you keep your distance, then I'll consider allowing you to date my daughter. Because at this point, Hopper's, adopted 11 and literally adopted and figuratively has become a father to her at this point.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. Moving on, Mike, the next day, kind of a little filling in the gaps here. 11 calls Mike, and then Mike makes an excuse because now Mike's afraid of Hopper. So he's like, yeah, my Nana's sick, blah, blah, blah. And then later that day, they run into each other at the mall. Meanwhile, the boys are like Lucas is trying to give advice to Mike, saying, no, it's all right. Me and Max have broken up multiple times. She always takes me back. And so he tries to give Mike some advice on what kind of present or apology he could make to win 11 back.
Right.
And then 11 straight up dumps his butt at the mall. And they're like, that's like next level, like, oh, this is real.
Did anyone else find it funny that he's like, I tried buying you something, but it's hard. I only got $350.
Right.
$350? The $350 meme?
Yes, I've seen the meme, and then some people ask me, is this important? I'm like, yes, just watch the show.
And $350 back in the day, you could actually buy quite a bit of stuff, or at least something at least decent.
You could buy a lot of casual, everyday things,
But they were looking in the wrong places because they were looking at like
Jewelry and stuff.
diamonds that are like.
Well, and that guy said,
One
the
carat.
guy, what was it, $300? And Mike's like, they're all like, as they're walking, 300, I don't got that kind of money.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's like several hundred, like today, or $1,000 ring, basically. It's, yeah.
And going on with the whole 11 dumping him, as soon as he dumps her, or she dumps him, Cold as Ice comes on by Foreigner.
You're as cold as ice.
I gotta throw this out there real quick, Matthew. Shout out to our one nerd host that couldn't join us. Lynn has just been has had to work a lot lately and hasn't been able to catch up with the show. So he gave us his blessing to do this episode without him. But
Hopefully he doesn't watch this.
But no, he knows what we're doing here. But my point is that last deep dive, he was responsible for
He was the
jotting
music guy.
down all the music references.
Oh,
And so
my bad.
far, without I'm giving you props, dude. I'm saying without a beat, you're very aware of all the songs that have come up. Like, you keep referencing them. I'm giving you props here.
I just like 80s music.
Well, no, I mean, Lynn knew a lot of them too, but I'm just saying, like, he was the guy designated to, like, spiel out any references, and you're just casually throwing them in there, and I'm saying I appreciate you. Moving on. Don't get a big head. Yeah. Moving
I
on.
already have a big head.
Nancy,
You were very
well,
weirdly
that's not my
filling in.
fault. Anyway, so guys, Nancy and Jonathan find Mrs. Driscoll in the basement going psycho. psycho munchies on the fertilizer. And it's pretty messed up looking. She's clearly affected. And so they're definitely onto something, you know. First with the rats and now...
But you're jumping into episode 3.
Nancy and Jonathan follow up on their lead of Mrs. Driscoll had caught a rat eating fertilizer when they're not looking. A rat.
Yeah, you were talking about.
God dang it! Let me cut that out. Not that it matters. Yes, it is out of order. But oh my god. Anyway,
it's okay.
Okay, rewind. So anyway, guys, Nancy and Jonathan follow up their lead about Mrs. Driscoll claiming that there were some psychotic rats, and they find this rat just going crazy nuts in this cage. And then of course the audience is treated to what happens to the rat after our characters leave, and next thing we know, the rat implodes into a sticky goo that seems to be amorphous and alive and kind of leaves the place. It's kind of like, okay, what's going on here, right?
Yeah, it's basically like it served its purpose and all of a sudden it explodes, and then it's like, all right, I'm coming home, Papa.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it was kind of disgusting. Not gonna lie. Pretty sure I threw up at that moment.
On the in-between here, Hopper, now, I mean,
being all Twitter-pated.
Sorry. No, sorry, I'm drawing blanks. Bob Newby.
Yes.
R.I.P. Rest in peace, Bob Newby. Now that he's out of the picture, the super safe nerd that Joyce Byers got into a relationship with,
Played by
Hopper.
Sean Astin.
Sean Astin, yep.
Rudy,
Hopper's
Rudy.
kind of looking at trying to slide in there and ask her out on a date at least. And if you guys recall from season 1, they used to smoke cigarettes out in the schoolyard, you know. They used to go to high school together, Hopper and Joyce. So Hopper's kind of always sort of had a thing for Joyce, but just, you know, never stepped in or never thought about trying. And, you know, now this kind of seems to be where he's thinking maybe, why not kind of a situation. But...
It stems from the whole like conversation that he had with Mike, and he's all feeling good and happy-go-lucky that he like did something about that, and then all of a sudden he's like seeing her like, okay, let's test the waters here, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of had a thing for her when she was with Bob Newby in season 2, but obviously, okay, he can't step in at that point. Meanwhile, Joyce, who's familiar with the craziness of Hawkins, jumps right into this concern about the magnets losing their magnetism all of a sudden, and she knows something's up. She can't put her finger on it, but I mean, she went through the first 2 seasons of Hawkins being invaded by supernatural crap and government conspiracy things that she's like, what could this be? So who does she seek? And I smiled ear to ear when I saw who this guy was building a miniature train set in his garage. I'm like, oh, Mr. Clark is back.
And
Wasn't a train set.
he was also listening to Weird Al Yankovic really loud.
My baloney.
Yeah.
Okay. On a side note, Nick,
that
there
part made me laugh.
is a train set amongst all the miniatures he's building.
Yes, but what he's built is a replica to scale of the town of Hawkins.
Yes.
Yes.
You didn't have to shut me down about a train set. There was miniatures surrounding the whole thing.
Didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
God. This guy.
Choo choo.
Oh, because that's actually an Easter egg.
Okay, well, fair
That was
enough.
called back to Doc Brown.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Back to the Future. So, he explains how a massive source of electromagnetic fields could cause the demagnetization of said things.
Right.
And then that gets her going, wheels start turning. Meanwhile, coolest character I think this season, at least that I've enjoyed, is just this nobody chick that Steve starts working with at what was it? Chips Ahoy.
Chips Ahoy.
Was it no Chips Ahoy?
Scoops.
Scoops Ahoy. It was Scoops Ahoy.
I thought it was Chips Ahoy.
Well, Chips Ahoy is an
Oh,
actual
Scoops.
brand.
Scoops
It was
Ahoy.
Scoops
That's
Ahoy.
right. My bad.
Ice cream shop.
Sorry, guys.
Scoops Ahoy. Robin, just kind of like a nobody. She thinks Steve's a complete loser. She's keeping track. He's trying to do his faux pas lady, whatever, magnetism thing. And every girl that comes up to buy some ice cream, and he fails every single time. And he feels like he's lost his mojo after coming out of high school. And he's like, I don't understand what's wrong. And she's got this loser board of how many times he just keeps losing.
Yes.
And so I think it's a really sweet character. She's super smart because while Dustin and Steve are trying to decode this Russian message with a freaking Russian English dictionary, like Robin comes in there out of nowhere and it's like, I could probably figure it out. Basically, like she's bored of scooping ice cream and wants something interesting to do, so she helps him out because she already knows 3 other freaking languages or whatever, so she's super smart. And goes in there and starts deciphering that crap. Later in the episode, as they're closing up the mall, they walk by this coin-operated horse.
Mm-hmm.
And they hear the music, and Steve realizes that it's the same music playing in the background to this Russian message. So then they start putting the pieces together, and they realize, okay, all these codes have something to do with here, and it came from here in the mall somewhere.
Yeah, and you can see Steve go why does that song sound so familiar? Like I can't place that song. And then once they hit that spot, he's like, "Oh, give me a quarter. One of you got to give me a quarter."
And Robin just thinks he's an idiot.
And he starts playing it, and Dustin, why did I say Justin? Oh, my Lanta. Dustin's all like, "Oh, that's the music in the background of this." He's like, "Yeah, this message was from here, not from Russia."
Mm-hmm.
It was just, yeah. It was cool, though.
I don't remember the beat for beats, but the last, portion of this episode, we kind of focus on Billy returning to his lifeguard duties. And everyone kind of looks at him weird because he's very much not himself. His normal self, he's cocky, proud, shirtless, and here we have a bloodshot, sweaty-faced, fully clothed version of Billy, where he just kind of looks upset and sick. He goes and sits down, and people are just kind of looking at him. And at some point, he gets up off his thing, mid-shift, and goes back into the locker room. Or no, he goes to a shower and starts running a shower, because he's just
cold shower.
Cold shower because he's just sweating up a storm. And then Holloway's daughter Heather, his coworker and lifeguard buddy, goes in there and asks if he's okay. And next thing you know, he's knocking her out, dude. I was like, "Whoa!"
Well, you hear a voice say, "Take her," in the background.
Take her.
Yep.
Very creepy. And I mean, that's that. Basically, he takes her, and at this point, we're kind of very suspicious. At this point, this early on, episode 2, we're like, "Oh, the mind flayer's got some kind of grip on this Mr. Belly. Where something's wrong here." Very reminiscent of what went on with what's his name?
Will.
Same thing going on here. Nick, any references you want to throw out there?
Quite a few.
Okay.
Well, we're going to start from the beginning of the episode. In the beginning, you see Billy taken by the creature. And when it actually finally gets him, you see this thing come up and attach to his face. It's a reference directly to the facehuggers from Aliens.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Came out in the 80s. And then later, you find out that several people in Hawkins have gone missing, and they're being taken over by the Mind Flayer. So, along with the Russians and everything there, the movie that came out in the 80s there was a Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh yes. And
it was all a big representation of America's fear of the Soviet invasion.
Right.
And it was embodied through the Body Snatchers because everyone thought everyone else was the spy for the Ruskies. Okay. All right. Now we flash forward to where 11 is knocks on Max's door, and you're now in Max's bedroom. And they're talking, and she's basically telling him, hey, he's being a dirtbag, dump his ass. But something of note there, while you're in Max's room, you find out she's kind of a nerd and a movie buff, just like the rest of the kids. On her wall, you see a poster of 1982 John Carpenter's The Thing.
Right.
This is actually a nod to the plot of this season, because after all, The Thing is a parasitic creature that takes over the bodies of everyone around him. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of foreshadowing. This episode is also the episode where we meet our mayor, our dastardly Mayor Larry Klein, played by Carrie Elwes. And I love the choice for Carrie Elwes. He's an awesome actor. I love the way he approaches things. Every time I see him, I just see him rolling down the hill yelling, "As you wish."
I just see him cutting off his ankle.
Yeah, he gets his first name, his mannerisms, and his propensity to come up with distracting events for the town people from another mayor. He is actually modeled after Mayor Larry Vaughn from the Jaws movies.
I can see that.
Other Jaws movie reference. You actually see Chief Hopper quote Chief Brody from the Jaws when he was talking with the mayor. Something comes up, and his exact lines is, "I can do anything I want. I'm the chief of police." And then he walks out. You see throughout the episode, Hopper watching a very 80s TV show, started in 1982.
Oh, yes.
TV show of choice, and who it almost looks like he is trying to mimic.
No, he's totally styled after this, yes.
Magnum P.I. You can definitely tell that his inspiration is from Tom Selleck's person. He actually has someone deliver him a T-shirt, and that T-shirt is the exact same shirt from the Magnum P.I. TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And when he gets it, well, what did he say? This is cutting edge?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cutting edge.
Yeah.
This is the fashion for this year.
Yep. And then this, along with that, if you guys haven't noticed, there's actually been a lot of stuff blowing up about the acid wash jeans and the Magnum P.I. T-shirt, and people thinking it's the hottest dad look in the world, and everyone's looking to try to figure out where to buy these shirts now.
No.
That's not good.
No.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So this episode, we also get a deeper look into the mall itself. You actually see them walking through, so you get to see the different stores and stuff. So even though Scoops Ahoy was never really a store, what's wrong?
Nothing. I'm just screwing
Even though
around
Scoops
in the
Ahoy is
background.
never really a show. Never really a store. You actually see other stuff like Orange Julius. Mm-hmm. The original Orange Julius sign. You see Sam Goody, Walden Books.
Walden Books,
and,
yes.
And a few others. And like I said, when she walked into Professor Clark's room, is everything? What are you guys doing?
I don't know what he's doing.
Continue, dude. Just ignore what I'm doing.
He's listening to Weird Al Yankovic's My Baloney, which is a parody of My Sharona by The Knack.
Right.
My baloney.
They made a reference to, because made a reference in a few references in season 2. They carried on the references for the Evil Dead series in this one.
Oh yeah.
You see Billy's arm is infected, and the way everything's happened is happening exactly like one of the Deadite poisonings, like what you saw before Ash cut his arm off.
Like in the Upside Down?
Yeah. I remember last time I did that, didn't I?
Call back.
Now, to go along with that song, On a Bicycle Built for Two, or Daisy, that was played by the horse. One of the reasons why that sounds so familiar, and the way it was portrayed, is actually they took it from 1960. What was it? 1960. I want to say 64. 2001: Space Odyssey. Hal plays that tune in a very distorted way, almost like how they heard that in the back of the thing, and it almost sounded identical.
Fair enough.
And then, of course, the reference to Doc Brown by the Professor, with his miniature recreation of the town in his garage.
Right.
Yes,
His
indeed.
garage was also even set up almost the same way as the Doc Brown.
Yeah, I noticed that right when she walked in. I was like,
Very nice callback.
It's Marty.
On that point.
And what's funny is that movie is actually playing at the movie theater, and people are like, "Why do they got to go Back to the Future? What does that even mean?" I know that's probably like later on in a couple
Only a little
episodes,
bit,
but still, when that, I laughed so hard. Back to the Future, by the way, for everybody out there, is one of my favorite trilogies
It's one of the best.
of all time.
Nicholas, is that a wrap up for that? For your references?
Episode 2 references, from me, are complete.
Dun dun dun.
Very nice. And that wraps up our episode 1 and 2. Guys, chapter 3, The Case of the Missing Lifeguard. And the plot goes as such.
Where's Waldo? Oh, sorry.
Indeed. I don't know. 11 uses her powers to spy on Mike and later Billy. She sees Billy subduing Heather, and he senses 11's presence. So right here, Max and 11 are spending some quality girl time. Max talks her into spying on the boys. We see some funny, awkward shenanigans there. And then they decide to spy on Billy and see what he's been up to. And we see a disturbing scene where Billy is crouched down. We see Heather making some yelling sounds. It doesn't look good. And then suddenly Billy sees that 11 is looking. Like right at him. Like somehow they can sense her. Creepy. Moving on, Nancy finds out more about the rat's strange behavior, discovering reports of missing fertilizer and chemicals all over Hawkins. Good for you, Nancy Drew. Sorry. That was a mean joke thrown out by her co-workers, the men in said place. Returning to the Driscoll house, Nancy and Jonathan, here we go, find Ms. Driscoll eating fertilizer herself. She's looking very psychotic while eating it. Like, ugh. Anyway. Then, Max and 11 try to track down Billy, but fail to find him and Heather. They failed to find Billy and Heather at the pool. Will has a falling out with Mike and Lucas, frustrated by their preoccupation with girls. It's kind of a sad little note. The other friends have kind of all grown up, and Will's a little behind on this whole idea of, romance, Twitterpation, what have you.
Right.
And he just wants to go back to the way things were. Dungeons and Dragons, let's be bros, be friends, and go back to the way we were. But, so they have a little bit of a falling out there. Meanwhile, Robin decodes the Russian communication, realizing that the Russians have a shipment arriving at Starcourt that night. awkward. Also, Hopper is angry at Joyce for standing him up, but she convinces him that the magnets must have demagnetized due to an electromagnetic device at the abandoned lab. Hopper and Joyce go to the lab to investigate, but Hopper is attacked by none other than the Terminator. Sorry, a character known as Grigory, a Russian soldier, who is very Arnold Schwarzenegger-esque in his presentation. Dustin, Steve, and Robin spy on armed Russian soldiers receiving a shipment at Starcourt's loading dock. And finally, Max and Eleven find Billy and Heather having dinner, with Heather's parents seemingly fine. After the girls leave, Billy and Heather knock out her parents, which Will senses. Will, he's disbanded, he's run off on his own, kind of by himself, upset at his buddies, but he senses something's going on. We see Billy and Heather literally knocking the crap out of her own dad and mom.
With a wine bottle.
Yeah, and then Dustin, Steve, and Robin are spying on some armed Russian soldiers right now. Things seem a little more serious at this point and juncture in the episode. I liked a lot of the back and forth and the unfolding of, oh snap, Heather is also possessed like Billy. What is their plan at this point? Like, that's kind of my unfolding thought at that moment. I really liked the episode. Before Nick throws out any culture references, did you have any medium opinions on it, Matthew? With where we're at here, armed soldiers, the possession plot seems to thicken at the end there.
So when Dustin and Steve figure out, like, thinking it's Russians, right? They're all sitting there spying with their goggles, and they spy this guy that's blonde hair,
I love this
having
scene.
a duffel bag. And they're like, "Where's he going?"
describes what does a Russian look like. Steve says, "What does a Russian even look like?" And then Dustin starts describing, "Oh, you know, blonde-haired, white, probably carrying a duffel bag and looking suspicious." And then, yeah, like you were saying, this guy is just walking. He looks very stone cold and serious.
Yeah,
he's walking through.
His exact words were tall, blonde, not smiling.
Yeah, not smiling.
Not smiling.
So they follow him, and this guy walks into a room with a bunch of chicks in yoga pants, and then he
spandex at the time because yoga pants are really a thing.
Close enough. Spandex, and he sets his duffel bag down. Suddenly gets a real big grin on his face as he's unzipping the duffel bag, rips out a boombox,
and starts playing Wham.
For all you younger listeners out there, that is a cassette music player. It's pre-CD.
Yeah, and that that whole scene right there made me laugh so hard.
And he's like, what did he say? Something like, let's start...
It was... Well,
I think it's jazzercise.
It's jazzercise.
Yeah. All right, ladies, let's start. Oh, wait, yeah.
Working it and talking about gyrating your midsection, your hips. Start working those hips, ladies. And then they're immediately like, oh. They were caught off guard on that one.
Yes. But then you see Steve just like staring at the... Sorry. Anyways.
No, that was a fun moment for that episode. I agree.
But the moment that they started to figure out, when Robin figures out like the whole like message,
coded message,
which is the week is long, the silver cat feeds when blue meets yellow in the west. What is it? A trip to China sounds nice if you tread lightly. And then all of a sudden, like, you see it, like, her brain just, like, click on, like...
I'm just giving you a quick prop and shout out to Matthew. He's not reading any notes.
Oh, what?
I'm telling our listeners that you quoted that whole thing and that it wasn't written down anywhere. No. That's all. I don't have that written in my notes.
And
They did repeat it a lot, but I don't remember the quote.
you see it dawn on her, and like she's like, "Stay here, get the kids some freaking ice cream," and she like runs off, and you see her stand up in the middle of like the food court, and it's like, da 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 da, and then that's when you see them lead to like the whole Russian being up on top of the roof, spying on the Russians because of what time it is.
Yeah, they pinpointed all that detail. Yep. All right, Nicholas.
Sorry,
I'm going...
I didn't mean to.
No,
like,
dude.
tread on
That's
that.
part of the fun of this whole breakdown. Nick, go ahead and throw us out some references for episode 3.
Episode 3 references. This reference was nice for the sheer fact that they finally touched on the fact that Eleven's not just a science experiment. She's a teenage girl.
Mm-hmm.
And they just went through this whole breakup. And they actually went back to the times where magazines had fold-out center posters. And she's looking at a picture of Ralph Macchio.
Mm-hmm.
Who all people know from the 80s was the Karate Kid.
Karate Kid.
Sorry.
And her and Max decided to spend a day at the mall, being girls, doing girl things, and trying on new clothes and trying to make Mike jealous. One of the things you see her do is when she's dressing up, she actually puts on the Karate Kid bandana with the sunburst thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Another call out was actually to one of Winona Ryder's movies from the 80s. She was in a movie called The Heathers. The reason why this is a call out, the first girl to die in this film and the first girl to die into this show name was Heather.
Barbara. Oh.
The season. Sorry.
Oh, this... I was like, Justice for
Heather.
Barbara?
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. You're
But
right.
is she dead?
You
Or
grabbed the
is she-
jazzercise for me. That was actually one of my messages right there.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. That's perfectly fine. You know that when they're searching in Billy's room to try to find him, you find out that Billy is actually a pretty hardcore heavy metal fan. Because on his wall you have a poster for the album Filth Hounds of Hades, which is by the band Tank. Not many people know them, but they were big heavy metal back then. There was another call back to the movie Invasion of the Body Snatchers. One of the stores' name was Kaufman Shoes, which Philip Kaufman was the director in '78 of Body Snatchers. And it's funny you should say Nancy Drew. There's actually quite a few references in this episode for Nancy Drew
Oh, yes.
pertaining to Nancy.
Oh,
Yes.
irony.
One of the big things you can see is the episode title, The Case of the Missing Lifeguard. That harkens back to a very big style of Nancy Drew titles for her
The case
for her
of, yes.
books.
Mm-hmm.
Weird Al, you see another reference to Weird Al on Dustin's t-shirt. Yeah. And Castle Byers, where Will Byers is trying to say, hey, we need to just do D&D, don't worry about the girls. All the magazines that are around him are Dragon magazines, which was original source for all the information for Dungeons & Dragons.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Now, I'm surprised you didn't touch on something in the background where Billy and Heather are eating at Heather's parents' house.
Go
Which
on.
one?
Do you remember this? Do you remember the song that was playing in the background?
Not off the top of my head.
American Pie.
Yep.
We are jumping into Chapter 4, The Sauna Test. Now, in tradition of everything we've recorded up to this point, I'll read off the bullet points of this episode, and then I think it'd be best that we continue with the tradition of pointing out our favorite scene or part of these episodes, and then whatever Nick has for notes or memories on pop culture references for this episode, we'll jump to him on each episode. So, jumping into the plot, gentlemen, here we go. Chapter 4, the sauna test. Heather takes her parents to the mill. Now, this is the lifeguard working with Billy, where they are attacked by the creature. I don't remember that detail, but you know what? I'm not going to fuzz over things. We'll recap anything that we're unfamiliar with as we go forward.
Wait, what was that first part? Sorry, I didn't sound out.
Heather takes her parents to the mill where they're attacked by the creature.
Yeah.
I think that the parents were attacked by this creature that they offered her parents up to. You know what I mean? Like yeah.
She leans into her father and goes, "This will only take a moment. Just don't scream.
Yes.
It'll hurt less."
Yeah, they tied her parents up. They brought her down into this mill, and they had this whole mind flayer creature that seems very physical in this season. They let that creature basically suck their faces off, essentially. We don't know what that means yet at this point. We're like still trying to figure it out. Meanwhile, Nancy and Jonathan are fired for harassing the old lady Driscoll, revealed to be a paranoid schizophrenic. Now, Nancy and Jonathan thought there was something up with the rats. Then they thought maybe she was weird and possessed. But they end up getting fired for it from the news place where they were working.
Well, that's Nicole's father.
Yeah,
he was taken at that point.
Heather's father. He was the head guy for this news reporting company, the newspaper company. Now, meanwhile, Will reveals his connection to the Mind Flayer to his boys Mike, Lucas, 11, and Max. He tells the gang, "Hey, I'm still connected to the Mind Flayer," basically. And this leads the group to speculate that the Mind Flayer still resides in the real world, and they think it has possessed Billy at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, moving forward through this episode, we've got Hopper and Joyce force Klein to reveal that Gregory, the Terminator character here, works for the owners of Starcorp, who have bought up additional abandoned properties all around Hawkins. Klein later alerts Gregory that Hopper and Joyce are planning to search for the properties, and this is the mayor. Klein is the mayor of the town.
Mr.
Played by Carrie
Ellis.
Ellis.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
In stereo.
Yep. Full surround for all you. He knows Russians are involved, but he tries to stay out of the details. And Hopper obviously is very pissed off at the mayor for allowing these sort of things to happen in their town. So while all of this is being revealed at Starcourt, we've got Dustin, Steve, and Robin enlist Lucas's sister Erica, bless her soul, to break into the storeroom, discovering it is an elevator when they are trapped inside as it takes them down below the mall. We'll bust into some scenes about her because I think we all were entertained by Lucas's young sister in this scene. Let's finish up. We got 2 more bullet points.
Okay.
Still suspicious, Nancy goes to visit Driscoll at the hospital after old lady Mrs. Driscoll was taken to the hospital, while the kids meanwhile the kids trap Billy in the pool's sauna to confirm that he's possessed, because remember, they learned that the Mind Flayer hates heat, and that's how in the last season they got the Mind Flayer's presence to leave Will by overheating Will's body.
Right.
So, in conclusion, the last plot point for this episode, Billy gains seemingly superhuman strength. He breaks free from the sauna. Also, Nancy witnesses Mrs. Driscoll similarly transforming, like she breaks out of her restraints in the hospital. and Billy regroups with Heather at the mill, where dozens of other townspeople have been possessed. So,
Yes.
real quick, before we get into pop culture references, Nick, let's talk real quick, not too long a time. Let's take our favorite scenes out of episode 4 and kind of just explain them a little bit, kind of express what we liked about them. So I'll go first, just kick things off. For me, I think one of my favorite scenes was when they first when Dustin, Steve, and Robin tried recruiting Erica, Lucas's younger sister, who is sassy as all get out, has this attitude we've never seen before. Suddenly she becomes kind of like a new character in this season, and they're like, hey, there's this vent we're trying to climb in through to infiltrate this Russian compound. None of us can fit it, but hey, this barely 12-year-old girl, you're small enough. And they try to bribe her with all the different treats at the Chips Ahoy ice cream place where Robin and Steve work. And she makes some very outlandish demands where she's like, if I'm going to do this, you're going to guarantee me a lifetime supply of everything on the menu. And they basically tell her, they promise her that. And before she gets really into it and when she realizes things are kind of serious, little Miss Erica points out the fact that she feels like this is child endangerment. And she decides to repeatedly remind them of this as they get into their antics. That was one of my favorite scenes. You guys can either agree or point out a different scene. Nick or Matt, what was one of your favorite parts of this episode?
That one was actually one of my favorites too, because with her talking, she's all like sitting there going, at first they're like, we'll give you like a free scoop every day for like 2 weeks. And then she's like, I don't really need you. You need me.
Right.
And then she talks about the child endangerment thing, and then
she tries to up the ante, which she said everything for free, whatever she wants on the menu, basically at that point.
Oh, she's a hustler.
Yes.
Major hustler. It's like she was this annoying sister in season 2, and we don't know much about her, and all of a sudden she's got all these cojones, demands, and perspective about what she understands. I can get away with this. They need me.
Exactly. And like the whole time though, like she's always going into Chips Ahoy throughout those first 3 episodes, asking for free samples.
That was my other favorite part, Matthew. just to echo what you're pointing out here. Yeah, like every day she would come to that store and demand the free sample that they promise their customers. And she got sassy.
And then later on, when she's like saying that she can't figure out how to open up the door, and then she just stands there and just pushes the button.
Those interactions were so good. Nick, did you have an agreeance or an alternative favorite part of that episode?
That was actually one of my favorite scenes, but my favorite would actually have to be the sauna test scene, where they're in the sauna. Ooh. This is where you actually get to see Billy kind of finally give in to the mind flare, completely and utterly. There's no holding back anymore, and he gets pissed, and he almost has like this Wolverine awakening moment. You know what I mean? He
kind of became possessed in that moment.
Oh yeah.
Like, well, yeah, overtaken. Yeah.
With that whole thing though, it's like they're all connected at the same time. So when him and Mrs. Driscoll were yelling out at the same time,
When
she was
the Mind Flayer
basically
was
giving her strength
Mhm.
and back and forth kind of a thing.
I
That's
can
how he was
I
able
can
to open up the door.
I can agree with that. There was a synchronization with the Mind Flayer taking over all these different citizens of Hawkins, where Billy was kind of the catalyst in this season for the Mind Flayer, but all these other people that were also affected by the Mind Flayer also seemed like a hive mind. They all seemed to kind of react or like at the same time.
But he wasn't a drone like the other ones.
He wasn't
No.
what? No,
He
no.
wasn't
That
a drone.
well, no. That and that's what I mean by catalyst. And I know that's what you're pointing out, Nick. Is that like, yeah, he was like for whatever reason, Billy had enough darkness in him that the Mind Flayer was drawn to use him as like the primary host. At least that's kind of what we gather based on these scenes that played out. Like that's kind of what I theorized about by seeing this play out.
Yes, I agree with that.
And like I said in the past with this, this is very reminiscent of Lost Boys.
Mm-hmm.
So this moment also reminded me of when the main good guy character finally changes vampire and lets it unleash. That same kind of look as he looks through the doorway was very similar to this.
And can I also point out in this episode, this, for all his comings and goings and shortcomings and positives, as far as Hopper is concerned, this is at this point in the season, this is one of these turning points where I'm like, he goes from, don't get me wrong, he's always veered off from the books of the law, but this is kind of a point in the series where he kind of just basically declares on a personal level and in front of Joyce and to the audience that at this point he doesn't give a shit anymore. He wants to get down to the truth. And this is where he starts threatening the mayor of the town and starts asking him to reveal what's really going on, because this mall came out of nowhere and it's affecting small businesses, but more than that, Hopper can see the shady aspects about this mall, and he's not even talking to the kids right now. He sees there's something going on. Matt slams a fist into his palm because Matt knows what I'm talking about here. And he just he goes ham at this point in the season on the frickin' mayor. And Joyce
breaks his damn nose.
And Joyce is not even
twice.
Here's the thing, like Joyce, Winona Ryder, right here, is playing such. I love her. She's used to all the crazy shit that happened in season 2. So at this point, nothing is really shocking her. She also wants to get to the truth, and she's not ready to get into a relationship again, but we all have to admit, as an audience, Hopper is turning her on here, and she's along for the ride. Let's be honest. She's not even questioning Hopper at this point. She's not stopping him like, "Oh, you just punched the mayor in the face." Joyce is just at this point, she's not even questioning Hopper. She's not ready to get into a relationship, but she's completely fine with Hopper's aggressive nature at trying to get to the point. She's worried about she's worried about her own kids. She's worried about what's really going on around her in the town. And she's like, you know what? The only person willing to figure this out is Hopper right now, and he's taking action. Screw it. And she lets it happen. She's like, remember when she was distracting the secretary and Hopper goes in there and has a one-on-one with the mayor? And she's just like, no, I guess we're leaving now. And she just goes out with him and the mayor in hostage. she doesn't even question it. Anyway, that's where we're at with those two. And that was the second, like, I wanted to point that out. Like, I'm kind of excited about that. And, like, how much of a nod were the Duffer Brothers making when they put out this freaking Russian actor Grigory and making him straight up freaking the Terminator in this whole thing. Like, ruthless killer who's obviously keeping things hidden from the common folk, and he's the one going in and talking to the mayor. Hopper's like, who is this guy, right? And I love the references because the Terminator was early 90s and all that, and there's so many references to that.
First Terminator was 1984.
1984. And we got signs for it. We pointed out some pop culture references even at the beginning of this breakdown. Episode 1 or 2, Nick, I think you pointed out we saw a sign for Terminator, among other things, because this season launches in the summer of 85. Was that right? Which is crazy.
Yep.
Right? Because guys, I know Matt was already almost a year old at this point. Me, I was only born 3 months prior to the beginning of this show. So February of 85, and Nick a little after that, right? A little bit. Anyway, anything else, guys? Anything else that stands out before we move on? Any other favorite moments before I ask Nick to give me any pop culture references? Because we kind of made some of those already. The Terminator and all that. Anything else, Matthew or Nick, on plot points that stood out?
Not really.
I mean, there's a lot we could really go at length on, honestly, if we were to do an episode by episode breakdown. But for the sake of time and everything, we'll keep moving on. Nick, were there any, to your recollection, any major references other than the Terminator for Chapter 4?
Yes. There is a scene that has 11 and what's her face?
Max? Yes.
Max.
Yes.
11 and Max, they're sleepover. They're talking and doing their thing, and Max pulls out some comic books to show her.
Yes.
And it kind of frustrates me. I actually owned these comic books. It was in the collection I got from my uncle.
Or did.
Yeah. What?
I'm sorry. Go on. Sorry. Go on.
I actually owned.
Go on.
But I sold them because I was short on some.
I know. I was trying not to bring that up. Go on.
And the issue she had, Wonder Woman number 326, is most known for because it was the first issue for a series called Troubadour Heat. It's a big island excursion thing that they were trying to figure out. And then Green Lantern 185. The importance of that is it was actually the first comic book that went into the backstory of John Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Yeah. And those were both. The Wonder Woman one was released in July of '85, and the other one was released in May.
Right.
Of '85. So it's right in the right time period. So those would have been very close there.
Yes.
And we were talking about the Terminator connection. There's actually in that scene that we were just talking about between Hopper and the mayor, where they actually say Mayor Klein jokes that he was attacked by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, there was a very direct reference there.
Yeah. We have another reference to a popular show that a lot of us lovingly remember from our kids, from our child ages. When they're trying to get into the vents to actually start exploring, and they're pushing her up in there, beforehand, before they realized that they were going to get the little girl in there, Dustin. Yeah, Dustin.
They were
Dustin,
talking
about
Steve,
Dustin.
Robin.
Dustin's ability to bend into bizarre shapes, and he says he's like Gumbo, and Robin makes the correction. You mean Gumby? Which we all know is a very popular green claymation character with his.
I grew up watching
cool red
that
horse.
old school claymation. They called it claymation back in the day.
Oh yeah, Oh yeah. Um,
I
then
forgot about that.
towards
And then
the
he
end.
gets stuck. Sorry.
Yep.
Old school, Matthew. Old school. So good.
Towards the end of the show, of the episode, there is a scene that you see all the mind flare drones walking towards the screen.
Is that when it happened? That scene?
I'm pretty sure.
I'm not trying to correct you. I just am trying to remember if that was where it happened. Right? We're talking about some melting situations?
Well, it's
Or not
towards that
quite?
scene, yeah,
Not quite.
towards the scene
Okay.
where they all do that. But they have this happen, and during this scene, it plays in the song. I know the song thing is usually the Matt thing, but
Yeah,
that's fine.
usually, Matt, it's been a minute. It's been a minute since we got
They
to this
play this
recording.
song, 1939 Vera Lynn song called "We'll Meet Again Someday."
Oh,
Um,
yeah, they play that during the whole part where Billy like starts running away,
mhm.
and he looks back at Max, and that's when it goes, "We'll meet again." Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
cuts into the part where the
Props,
people are
props.
walking towards the screen, where this is kind of a callback. This is a callback to Stanley Kubrick's Doctor Strangelove series when the nuclear explosions are happening. So this is
Yeah.
basically saying shit is going down.
Yeah. Right.
Another thing is during that scene when you see all the drones, I'm gonna call them,
That's fine. Yeah.
you see a harken back to another band from that a punk rock band from that time. One of the people, he's got long hair and he's wearing a Dead Kennedys shirt.
Which means what?
It's a punk rock band, Dead Kennedys.
I know.
That was really
I know,
popular during
sorry.
that time.
I know.
I'm
I know,
sorry.
Sorry. Sorry. Try to be on the nose. My bad.
Yeah, that's all right. I'll forgive you.
Dead
I'm not
Kennedys.
sure. I'm not sure our viewers will. I mean,
Hopefully, those listening will forgive me.
all right. And I'm like I said, I'm only giving 3 for each episode. So
That's fine. If we go any more, it might be an overwhelmingly long deep dive. Which,
Yeah.
on a side note, guys,
I trimmed up my notes a lot, actually.
leave a comment. And Nick does that. Guys, leave a comment down below if you want super deep dives, because we are capable of doing so. But that being said, let's jump into the next one, shall we, guys? Chapter 5, The Flayed. That sounds gross, but let's explain the meaning by getting to the bullet points.
I was
All right.
like, what are you talking about?
The
Yeah, the Flayed.
Yeah,
Yes.
the
Yes,
Flayed,
yes.
Matthew. Plot.
Hey.
Here we go. Hopper and Joyce discover one of the abandoned properties has a hidden laboratory. They get into a fight with Grigori, the Terminator character, and escape with Dr. Alexei, a Russian man who helped build the gate to the Upside Down.
who was in a secret lab underneath the Gregory's bed?
So many details. Moving forward. Alexei only speaks Russian, so Hopper decides to go to Murray, who can help translate. Murray! We'll get into it in a minute, guys. Grigori tries to follow and loses the trail. Meanwhile, Dustin, Steve, Robin, and now Erica hide from Russian men unloading the boxes from the elevator and follow them out after they leave, discovering a massive Russian base under Starcourt. This wonderful mall that's been constructed has a Russian hideout underneath. Oh my goodness. Attempting to find a communications room, the four discover a large testing area where scientists are trying to open the portal to the Upside Down. And to be fair, I don't think they realize what the Upside Down is. Meanwhile, Nancy and Jonathan meet with Will and the others and confirm their experiences from the previous night. And they decide to let Mrs. Driscoll lead them to where Billy is. Poor Miss Driscoll. While the other children wait downstairs, Nancy and Jonathan find Miss Driscoll gone and an arranged Tom and Bruce waiting for them. Now, we'll talk about who Tom and Bruce are in just a moment. Nancy and Jonathan fight the two, and upon killing them, their bodies dissolve into organic masses, which join together, forming a beast. While waiting, Mike and Eleven reconcile. Now, just to jump back through things, I'll do a kind of a shortened perspective thing here, where I say that Hopper and Joyce find the lab, and they unfortunately encounter Mr. Terminator. At which point, once they get past that, they find a very soft-spoken Russian who they affectionately become known with as by the name Alexei. They try to connect with what's his name? Murray, who, if we recall in the last episode, Nancy and Mr. Jonathan tried to come to him for answers before, and this is the anti-Nazi super white American guy who hides out in an undisclosed area, and as of this season we learn that he speaks fluent Russian, he hates Russians, and he drinks vodka.
Yes, and it wasn't Nazi, it was USSR, like Russian.
Okay, but to be fair, he likes vodka, but hates Russians and speaks Russian fluently.
Correct.
Because he's always worried about what they're planning for the American land.
Yes. He's a, what is it called?
Is there a term for that?
Like, conspiracy theorist.
Yes. He played very heavily into conspiracy theory in Season 2. And in Season 3 here, we see, instead of the teenagers meeting up with him, we see Joyce and Hopper trying to connect with Murray with their Russian hostage, Mr. Alexei, who doesn't speak English, who seems very innocent on the outskirts of everything. And while so here we got Mr. Alexei explaining to Murray that this was their plans were to open up this gateway, blah, blah, blah. And Murray is just blown away and trying to share some of that, with Hopper and Joyce. And it gets really entertaining and interesting in this season. Let's see.
I think I laughed really hard at this episode just for the simple fact of like how they were interrogating the guy, and he kept saying that he wanted a cherry Frisian.
Oh yeah, no, like they were trying to get information out of him, I believe at this point, and his demands were specifically, he wanted, what was it, a cherry freeze, a slushy,
cherry icy,
a cherry icy at this point. And Hopper goes out of his way to go try to get one for him, and they don't have strawberry or cherry. What was it? They don't have.
They don't have cherry, so he brought back strawberry.
So he brought back strawberry, and then he speaks in Russian, saying, this isn't what I wanted. He's not gonna do it. Murray's like, that's what he's saying. He's not gonna do it unless you get this. And then Hopper gets super serious and violent with the guy. And here's the thing. I think this is the episode where he lets him go. He lets him leave the facility of our favorite conspiracy theorist, Murray. And Joyce and Murray are both like, dude, the guy's going to hop in your car and run and go away. He's going to run away. And Hopper's all like, no, this is how it works. This is how they do it in the movies. I don't remember all the words he said, but basically he's like, no, I know what he's doing. He's afraid to talk, but he's more afraid of going back to the people he works for. He's not going to run away, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
He
while
comes back and he's like,
well,
strawberry's fine.
Hold on. Yes, but hold on, Matthew. While I'm watching this scene, I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is either going to be an incredible redemption story of faith on Joyce's part for Hopper and in believing what Hopper thinks is true, or Hopper is going to get a hard cut, massive laugh in the face and be like, oh shit, I fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for the language. And I'm thinking at this point, literally, I'm like, Joyce is gonna be so pissed off at you, dude. He's leaving. He's literally taking off. And Murray and Joyce are yelling at Hopper, saying, "Dude, he started up the car. He's literally taking off. He's leaving." And Hopper, with all his might, is trying to stay confident and trying to keep pushing the idea. He's not gonna go anywhere. But he almost looks hesitant in that moment where he's like, he's not sure if what he's boasting is going to come true or not, but he's trying to look confident. And seconds later, we're
he
like,
pours himself a drink.
And then, a few seconds later, we see Mr. Alexei stop in the car after he already fired it up, got halfway down the property, and then stopped. And then all three of them walk outside and they look at him and they're like, Hopper is suddenly filled with confidence. He's like, look, he stopped. I told you. Without those words, but that's the expression he gave. And they're all like, damn, Hopper's right. Anyway, and like you said, he's like, Alexei comes up to them and says, strawberry's not so bad in Russian. And because he realizes, he's probably going to get reprimanded quite heavily for failing at his mission and being captured and all that. So to their favor, we get a little leeway with the Russian there. Matthew, I agree, that was one of my favorite moments in that whole season was that breakaway point where Hopper was able to reinstill confidence in his overcompensating guess that the Russian would stop and not leave. Nick, was there anything else that stood out to you as a favorite moment? I know I talked a lot.
I would have to say it was definitely the Alexei.
Yes.
The fact that they're just kind of giving him what he wants, just let him be there, and he's kind of got him wrapped around his finger. He's just sitting there watching cartoons of Woody the Woodpecker, drinking 7-Eleven slushies or ices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going off of that, the part where Hopper actually steals the car at 7-Eleven was scaring the crap out of that freaking business dude to where he was almost about ready to pee his pants. That was actually probably my favorite part. And then with the lover boy coming on right when he did it.
Very inconspicuous indeed.
Strike zone.
Yes.
Yes.
For episode 5.
I have 3 for this one.
Okay, go for it.
Beginning of the episode, when Nancy wakes up and calls Jonathan, she calls him and he says it's too early, and he complains that he had a long night with Fagin in the game. This is a very popular reference to 1982's Oliver Twist. Fagin was a lead character that was a character that led a group of pickpocketing children. So,
snap!
Yeah.
Oh snap, Matthew! sorry. I just wanted to wake you up for the recap of this here.
Sorry, dude.
I know you're fading. I know. We're going to try to get through it. I know.
And then there was a section when they get to the 7-Eleven after escaping from the lab with Alexi still in handcuffs. And they make another reference to a soda that I missed very, very much.
Surge.
No.
No.
Close.
Hold on.
Jolt Cola.
Yes.
Oh my God, what was that? That's so old.
Yeah.
Ah,
And then
Still around.
I can't find it in its original form.
Is it, Matthew? Is it really?
Yeah. So you just gotta look for it. There's a place in the mall that sells it here.
We shall have to confirm that afterwards.
And then there's a part back down in the Russian laboratory underneath with Dustin and the gang there that they're walking through. And Dustin starts talking about what the Russians are probably doing. And he brings up a reference, another DC comic reference. He brings up the reference of maybe the Russians are trafficking promethium.
Oh my gosh. I remember.
Does anyone know what promethium is? Well, promethium, the first use of it was in 1980. And it was described in the 1980 episode of DC Comic Presents The New Teen Titans.
Snap.
Where we meet Cyborg, and he's made of promethium.
Makes sense.
And she even says that. Robin when everyone asks what the hell is promethium, or Steve does. She looks at him and totally shows her nerd card, and we realize how much of a nerd she is compared to the other.
Oh my goodness,
the
yes.
others. And she says it's the substance Victor Stone was created in Cyborg.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And because of that, I love her character so much.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Chapter 6.
All right. Pop culture references finished. There it is.
And on that note,
we're not doing a new intro, Matthew. Sorry. All right. Here we go. Guys, Chapter 6. E pluribus unum. As it is, here's the plot. As the Mind Flayer attacks Nancy and Jonathan in the hospital, Will senses its presence, and 11 arrives in time to overpower it. It slinks off into the sewers, because remember, she did that crazy throwing it up, down, left, and right, then threw it out the window, and then we saw it melt away into a storm drain.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, in the Russian...
Squidgy.
Yes. Meanwhile, in the Russian base, under... Do you want me to get through this, Nicholas?
Go ahead.
Every 5 seconds, I'm like, what are you saying? In the Russian base, under Starcourt, Steve and Robin are captured, drugged, and interrogated but Dustin, and I know. Well, hold on, Matthew.
I know.
There's a thing we'll talk about. At the same time, Dustin and Erica arrive to rescue them while they're all nicely drugged up. Meanwhile, with Murray's translation, Hopper and Joyce learn from Alexei of the Russian efforts to build the gate machine to access the Upside Down, including one under Starcourt. Continuing forward, Hopper calls Dr. Owens to warn the government. The Terminator, Grigori, corners Klein, the mayor, at the Independence Day Fair, demanding he step up efforts to find Hopper's group. Get to the Hopper. Literally, in this moment, get to the Hopper. To find the Mind Flayer, 11 uses the same method of accessing Billy's memories as she had used with her mother. After seeing his troubled childhood, she finds the eye of the storm at the steel mill. As she pulls out of his mind, Billy grabs her, and the mind flayer senses her location in Hopper's cabin. Now, tapering off the episode, across town, those possessed by the mind flayer converge on the mill and congeal into a larger beast. Dun dun dun! Guys, breakdown moments, favorite parts. Let's get into this real quick. So, off the back, we've got Nancy and Jonathan in the hospital with all the kids, and we see a little glimpse of Eleven's power. She still has it at this point in the series. She throws the thing up and down, throws it out the window, and then it kind of melts into the sewer drain. And then meanwhile, we've got a couple other moments here. We got a lot of fun, and I want to throw this out there, and then I'll get your guys' favorite moments. For me, and I think almost probably all of us agree with this part as being something that we were all loved, is seeing Steve and Robin drugged out of their minds and having some real character growth and connection while being held hostage by the Russians. They're tied up to some chairs, and they've got this truth serum that was injected to them, and they're just they're babbling off just what they feel and the truths about how they feel. It goes a little deeper afterwards, but I don't think that's until the next episode, if I recall correctly, or at least towards the end of this one. But at least at the time being, one of my favorite moments, guys, was seeing them drugged up, tied up, and being left alone by the Russians, and they're just talking about life and their feelings, and all of it's like raw, real, and they're all being super honest about how they feel towards each other, as far as, you know, her feeling that he's really annoying sometimes, and him being just kind of super emotional. I thought that was a fun moment, especially when Dustin and Erica rescue them, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, these two are drugged." Like, Dustin realizes that after rescuing them. Anything else, guys? Anything else that kind of stood out, or did you guys find that particular one fun? Matthew.
I would concur with the whole them being drugged, especially after Dustin and Erica grab him, and Dustin's all like, "Why are you acting like this? You're acting like a little kid." And he's like, "I'm not a kid. You're a kid."
I love those.
He's just, "You're so drugged up right now. I'm not drugged. You're drugged."
I have to say my favorite highlight of this episode. There was two of them. Two starts to duo relationships we never knew we wanted, just because their chemistry and the way they react and feed off each other, and the humor of it is great. Dustin and what's her name? Erica.
Lucas's sister, little sister, right?
Yeah, it's hilarious. Just their banter back and forth, and she thinks they're all nerds and stupid and stuff, and
I love
she doesn't
what you're about to
realize
bring
that
up.
she's just like them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she brings up My Little Pony.
My Little Ponies.
And he's all like, "I'm a brony." She's like, "What is that?" It means I'm a guy and I like My Little Pony.
Yeah, and
That
he explained that was a nerd culture that she did.
Yeah.
She had no idea.
Yeah, because if you think about it, the franchise is all about mythical horses, dragons, magic, centaurs, and other plenty fantasy stuff.
Yes, I love how he tied everything about My Little Ponies into what the hardcore D&D fan base loves, and basically made a direct comparison to the whole thing.
Yeah,
I love it.
the other relationship of a duo that you start seeing develop, and it's just as funny and endearing, is Murray and Alexei.
Yes. Like,
yes.
He hates Russians, but he speaks fluent Russian, so he's building this side relationship with the Russian Alexei.
Yep.
Yeah. Expound upon that. Anything, Nick?
He's starting to move from that annoying thing to almost like he's growing on us like cancer.
Another favorite part is when Alexei and Murray are in the back seat and they're talking, and Hopper and Joyce are talking like back and forth, and
They're
all
kind
like,
of arguing.
"Why haven't they had sex yet?" I don't know. I told them that they need to. Well, in Russian, basically.
They're speaking in Russian about it. Yeah. Well, and Murray straight up in that moment, like Alexei's just sitting there listening, and Murray just basically, they're like Hopper and Joyce are arguing in the car, just about their different perspectives on how they should handle things, and it's very hostile. And then Murray said, "Why didn't you guys just effing have sex already?" And then it shuts them up immediately. And then he says, he elaborates saying, "There's a lot of hostility between you two, blah, blah, blah. Cut the sexual tension and just get it on already. Pull over and get on with it." And it just shuts them up immediately. And then he sits back. It's a little longer conversation, obviously, but then Alexei looks over to him and he's kind of confused. And then Murray basically explains to him in Russian they haven't had sex yet, and that makes both of them laugh. They're both like, "Oh!"
He does this like weird little smile. Alexei does, and he's like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah, like he can tell they're aggressive and angry towards each other, but he doesn't understand what they're saying. And then Murray just says, "They haven't had sex yet," in Russian, and he's like, "Ah," ha, ha, ha. They all kind of chuckle about it, and then Hopper's all like kind of offensively, like, "What did he just say to him?" You know, like. And then, but they both stay quiet at that point, and that was incredible. That's when they're driving to the carnival.
Yes.
That was my second favorite moment, or it's a tie with Robin and Steve being drugged. Nick,
Pop culture references.
Yes, give us 3 pop references for this episode. That was what you said you had.
I'm going to give you one that's kind of like a pop culture reference, but it's almost a trope of these style of shows before. Anytime you have a county fair and there's rides and stuff like this, every single movie, every single show that has this, there's one ride that is relevant through all of them. The Gravitron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of takes a center point in a big conversation between Klein and Faux Arnold.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of cool that they went so in depth and used that so much. This episode, they kind of went very. It was a very product placement episode.
A wee bit, yeah.
But it was big for pop culture back then. So the 2 big standouts in this was, of course, Burger King.
Mm-hmm.
Alexei has Hopper bringing back 2 Whoppers.
Yep.
And then, of course, Slurpees in that traditional 7-Eleven cup that they had back then. The big argument between strawberry and cherry being the same.
Right.
Hopper, damn it, it's not the same. You know this. Sorry.
No, well, artificial or not, there is a distinct difference for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Cherry, most artificial cherry flavors are actually made from a gland from beaver anus.
Hashtag nerd knowledge.
Okay.
Why?
You're welcome.
I don't even care if that's true. Why is the real question. I don't even care if it's true or not. Just why. Anyway, and you got one for Starbucks. You got one.
That was all 3.
The Murray, you know.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
That was
Bad.
So punny. It was awful.
Super pun.
You and the Pointer Sisters with their neutron dance.
No thanks. All right, guys. That wraps up episode 6. Let's get down to the last 2 for this entire season. Guys, chapter 7, The Bite. As the plot unfolds, 11 and the others determined the Mind Flayer's coming for her since she was the only one who previously closed the gate. Will senses the Mind Flayer approaching and it attacks them before they are able to flee. Meanwhile, Dustin and Erica drag a drugged Steve and Robin to the movie theater in Starcourt. Eleven's group break into a hardware store to help treat her wounds and gather more supplies, because in this moment, or prior, right beforehand, 11 was scraped or injured by an encounter with the Mind Flayer. Suddenly, Dustin contacts them over walkie-talkie. After this whole season, he finally gets in touch with them and explains their situation before he loses battery power. 11 uses her power to check on Dustin, so the group takes off for the mall. All of them now are converging. Steve admits that he has feelings for Robin, but we'll discuss this further. She comes out with an alternate angle that he didn't expect. Meanwhile, Hopper's group makes their way to the fairgrounds in Hawkins to find the children, where they are spotted by Klein, who alerts the Russians. This damn mayor, he's got nothing good for anyone here in this town. Meanwhile, Alexei, my heart saddens for this moment. Alexei is fatally shot by the Terminator, in front of Murray. Murray, Hopper, and Joyce evade several Soviet agents and learn the agents are looking for the children at the mall. Rounding out this episode at the mall, Eleven's group arrives in time to stop the Russians from shooting Dustin's group. 11 collapses in front of the children, her wound pulsing with a strange growth. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Alright. 3-man breakdown on favorite moments. Or impactful moments, I want to put it this way, because there's a lot of favorite moments in every episode, but I would like to say there were a couple I would think that maybe we might not call our favorite, but maybe emotionally impactful. I would like to throw that out as an option, because I think, just as a side note, or an aside to all the previous seasons, I feel like the last 2 episodes struck a chord on a little more of the emotional side with some of these characters. So, not to bury the lead or anything, guys, but I want to throw that out there. Favorite moment and or most impactful moment for you personally. I'm going to hold off on my thoughts. I'm going to throw it over to either you, Matt, or Nick for this first one. What's your vote in this episode? Most impactful or favorite, can be both or one. I'm going to call you out, Matthew, since you gave me the
I would have to go with the Robin and Steve talk, because they're completely like sober at this point, or sobering up.
They're on the tail end of their truth serum drunkenness.
Yes, and the whole interaction between them, like, he had no clue that they had the same classes, kind of a thing, because he was always one to go for the popular girls or the cute girls like Nancy from season 1.
He had a status he was trying to maintain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now that he's kind of lost that whole side of him, he's pouring out his likeness towards Robin, only to come to find out that it's not reciprocated very well, or not. It's
not in the way he expected.
She views him more as a brother because she likes girls.
She it was creative how the writers attacked this scene, because he's unloading his heart about saying that he wished he had paid more attention to her,
Mm-hmm.
kind of in a very poetic way, how he's sharing this with her, and she's kind of unloading her feelings about the whole situation with him in that class. But and Steve, so sad for him, but he thinks she's connecting with him in this moment about having feelings for him, and then a real knee jerk reaction twist with her storytelling suddenly reveals to us, the audience, and him, that she was actually jealous of him because he was grabbing the attention of another girl, and she obsessed over his ability to do so because it was the same girl she had feelings for and not him.
Right.
And that was just really nicely laid out in this back and forth dialogue between these characters. And I will agree with you emotionally and character development wise, Matt. I second this as being one of my favorites.
The next favorite would have to go towards at the carnival, but it's not necessarily the whole um
Are you going sad with this one?
no, not the Alexei getting shot. It's like everything like leading up to that. In the background, you hear John Mellencamp, ROCK in the USA, while he's like loading up on corn dogs and freaking.
You're making another song reference, Matthew.
Yes, I am making another song reference.
I just want to throw that out there for the listeners who may not be familiar with the era or songs. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah,
he's basically getting like this whole like huge dose of
American culture.
America.
Yeah.
And he wants to stay now.
Matthew, this, I think all of us can agree. I want to get Nick's secondary thought or first choice, but I think all of us can agree on the lead up to his character. He wasn't a main character, but they still drove a lot of like entertainment out of his character, and outside of that entertainment, the writers managed to drag us down into the immigrant. It wasn't like, this isn't like a Netflix waving the flag in the air trying to promote certain things, but this was still definitely a personal director writer expulsion of the immigrant story, where
Right.
he was part of an agency. There's all this conspiracy stuff, so that's not quite the initial angle for his character, but they brought us to this point where he doesn't want to be a part of that dark agency anymore. He just wants to escape from wherever he grew up in, or whatever agency he was a part of, and he is really enjoying the culture of America right here. It's the whole American dream. I'm putting air quotes as I say that. And we see him having a few moments of enjoying this idea of the American dream. And then the writers and directors just gonna rip that out of our chests as we see a character that we very quickly fell in love with meet an untimely fate.
It's all leading to this, and all of a sudden,
At this point, is this the episode right after that happens where Hopper kind of lights a fire under his own butt and basically takes the whole Russian crew through the madhouse and beats the crap out of all of them?
I think this was that lead up.
Yeah.
Because didn't him and Joyce find Alexei on the ground dying?
Hopper was next to. I mean,
Or was it Murray? Yeah.
Murray was getting food for him, and then
he saw
he like
him
looked
fall.
back. Yeah.
This one got me tearing up for a character that's not a main character. It's really good writing in this point and moment. Nick, were there any other, aside from impactful, were there any other standout moments for you aside from Alexi, and or did you also enjoy the Steve and Robin bathroom scene where they kind of opened up?
Uh, the tail end of that trip was enlightening on the characters in more ways than one. And then again, probably a music call out that someone missed right here was a song that was playing while they were looking up at the skylight.
Now Matt knows it.
Duh.
Matt knows it.
Yeah,
But what is it, Matthew? He's calling you out right now. What's the reference?
that's. Oh, I can't think of the song right now, but I know. Oh, what the hell?
You know the point. You know what
There's-
he's saying. Yeah.
Yeah, they're both laying down on the ground, looking straight up at the freaking
Bonnie
ceiling.
Tyler's
Do you know the name?
Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Yeah,
That's like one of the big ones. That's a big classic.
I'm not a big Bonnie Tyler fan.
Doesn't matter, Matthew. Fan or not, though, that song has an emotional grip if placed with the correct scene
That is true.
layout. You know, if a director puts it in the right spot in a movie, it can carry some weight. It can carry some weight.
No, yeah,
And-
Go
Oh, I'm
ahead.
sorry. I was gonna say, in the whole part before that whole scene, one of my favorite movies is being watched in the movie theater, and they're talking about the whole Back to the Future thing, and they're sitting there going, "Why do you have to go back to the future?" Because he went into the past to fix the present to make the future
better?
Why
than
didn't
they
you?
had-
Why didn't you just like go to the future? Because you got to go to the past. Shut up.
There- it's-
Doesn't make any sense. I don't see this lasting very long.
I mean, to be fair to all those fans out there, the hardcore ones, especially that understand time travel theory and a lot of Einstein's ideas, the version of how time travel works for that show, to be fair, does make sense if you follow the concept that he went with. Does it really work? Well, we don't know. That's left up to the nerds and the ether because time travel technically is not an actual scientific possibility. But if we're sorry I said that. We're gonna move forward. I don't want any debates right now. That's a whole nother episode. We're gonna move on. I love the Back to the Future references. Nick just gave me a disgruntled lip, and I thought, nope, he wants to say something. Let's just move on.
I think it's only a matter of time before something like that happens. Actually,
Let's move on. I don't want to open
Anyways.
up any cans of
Alright.
worms. Hey,
Pop
real-
culture references.
yes, give us the three key ones that you thought.
Did
Along with the Back to the Future that he was talking
Okay.
about.
That's
Back
the
to the
big one.
Future
That's
did
a
come out July
huge
3rd
one.
of '85.
Yes,
So it was a funny thing.
perfect.
But
timing.
also on that marquee, as Dustin's walking past it, you see the picture, the poster for Cocoon,
yeah.
Fletch, Return to Oz, The Stuff, and Daryl.
Oh snap! I didn't even see all those other listings. I saw
I
the
completely
big
forgot
ones.
about Daryl.
At this point, they're out of the bunker underneath, in the Russian bunker, and they're actually up above, going through the mall and stuff.
They're in Circle trying to hide out. Yep.
Yeah, there's another part where they're walking through part where there's like a grocery store area, and you see all these old school 80s cereals just lined up. Things you don't see anymore, because that's how they used to advertise for different movies, different things like that, was through cereal boxes.
Yep.
So you see stuff like Mr. T's cereal, the Ghostbusters cereal.
Yep.
We look back at like the old school honeycomb boxes. The one that actually stood out mostly to me was a freaking Smurf Berry Crunch.
Yeah, the 80s were aside from the really crappy modern movies that are being put out, the Smurfs were very heavy in the 80s.
La 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 la. Oh, sorry.
la. Oh.
And my last one is going to be actually about the talk that Robin and Steve had. They were talking about the Back to the Future part, and they were talking about how it's such a cool movie, and then they both realized at the same time that the mom was trying to bang her son.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Steve realizes the hot chick was Alex P. Keaton's mom. And Alex P. Keaton was Michael J. Fox's first role from Family Ties, the show that made him famous in '82.
Ah.
Mhm.
Nice little reference there. Dang.
Yep.
Dude.
That was funny.
Was there? There's a lot of little details.
Chapter 8.
Guys, here we go.
Now,
yeah.
we may miss some things, but it's okay. We're trying to keep it nice and tight for you guys, give you the big highlights, give you the review. But there's a lot more Easter eggs. And if you want, leave it in the comments on either Discord or our Facebook or Twitter. And I will happily go through and make a big list of all the Easter eggs and where to find them.
Yeah, I mean, guys, if you want to show us some love, make the request, because we want to produce content for you guys, and it'd be so cool if you guys actually wanted to know more of that, because we could go crazy deep. Matt wants to say something. What's up, buddy?
The new Coke is heavily talked about with the kids inside the mall because Lucas is sitting there drinking it.
And they make a nice little argument about how he likes it, thinks it's better, and everyone else is like, no, it's not as good as the original. Because they changed the recipe. Damn you, Coca-Cola.
They added too much sugar. That's what everybody's...
They're saying it was way too sweet compared to the original. Yeah. Nice little side reference, Matthew. But again, guys, yeah, we'll wrap this up at the end as far as how you guys can talk and comment on what we've done here today. But let's jump into the final chapter, guys. This will be Chapter 8, The Battle of Star Court. Now, here is the plot, my friends. 11 rids herself of the growth as Hopper's group arrives. Plans are made to take 11 to safety, while Hopper, Joyce, and Murray will shut off the machine, with Dustin and Erica navigating for them from his radio tower. Now, we'll come back to this next bullet point, because I'm gonna throw this out there. I think all three of us will agree that this next bullet point is probably one of our most favorite moments of probably the entire episode. Matt's immediately shaking his head and disagreeing. Why are you ruining this whole build up to this point that I'm trying to throw out there? Anyway, I'm gonna say it anyway. We'll disclose Matt's agreement later or disagreement. This next bullet point: Dustin enlists Susie, the mysterious girlfriend that no one's ever seen, to help for a necessary code, Planck's constant. I just want to leave a little air there. I'm going to move on. We'll come back to it. Billy and the Mind Flayer trap 11 at the mall. Billy seizes 11 for the Mind Flayer while the others distract it with fireworks. Another moment I think we'll come back to. 11 is able to awaken Billy's mind from his memories, and Billy sacrifices himself to protect 11. We'll unpack that shortly. Hopper fights with Gregory, the Terminator, in the gate room as Joyce prepares to trigger the shutdown. Hopper throws Gregory into the machine, chop, 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 causing it to go haywire and block his exit. Hopper nods at Joyce to trigger the shutdown. Seemingly, we'll unpack this as well, disintegrating everyone in the gate room, himself included, and killing the nearby Mind Flayer. Right? I know, arms up in the air like, maybe? Last two bullet points. As Dr. Owens arrives with military forces, say, what? Little cameo from season 2. 11 sees from Joyce's expression that Hopper is gone. Now, wrapping out the whole season, we have a quick time jump. 3 months later, Joyce's family and a seemingly powerless Eleven prepare to move out of Hawkins. Mike promises Elle that she will recover her powers, and Joyce gives Hopper's written speech to Eleven. Now, aside from favorite moments, I want each of us to maybe just express our like emotional feeling of the wrap up of this episode without going into details. This is kind of like our spoiler warning or spoiler wide open, because we already gave our spoiler free version. Guys, without busting out the details, I want each of us to just give our final feeling thought on how this season ended, and then we'll give our favorite moments. So let me just help you guys by kicking off real quick. My emotional outcome coming out of this, without breaking anything down yet, was, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I was a little buzzed watching this last episode, but I think if I rewatched it, my feelings would be the same. I was literally in tears in the last 60 seconds to 2 minutes of this whole entire season with that whole Hopper's written speech to Eleven. And not breaking anything down yet, I would just say that there was a crazy heavyweight and emotion to this for me. This show has never made me like legitimately cry until the end of this season. And I was like, what are you doing to me, Duffer Brothers? What are you doing to me? And that's where I left the season. I'll leave it there. I want to get your guys' confirmation or similar sharings. Nick, Matt, you seem really antsy. I want to throw it over to you. What was your emotional outcome coming out of the season?
So, through that whole like in scene with Elle and reading the thing, that did pull on the heartstrings. Until the ending credits played.
Okay, can we hold off on that, or give me your don't say what it is yet, because I want to break that down together. But give me your feelings on it, without saying what it is. Like, how did that little end credits scene make you feel?
WTF, man. WTF. Like, I was like about to cry before that. Like, and then seeing that, I was just like,
fist down. What? Okay, I want to get Nick's raw exiting of the season feelings here, and then we'll break out our favorite moment. Oh no. Hard cut. We just lost Nick. Hard cut. Damn it. We're 39 minutes. We're wrapping up. Oh, there's Nick. All right, you're back. I'm about to pass it off to you, and I was like, oh, we just lost him. Okay.
Maybe that was his intention.
I disappeared like Hopper.
Okay. Oh, no. Too soon, Nick. Too soon. Hashtag too soon. Okay.
That was on purpose.
Yeah. No, was it?
It was.
Are you serious, you bastard?
Yes.
You literally
I knew it.
That's the part. From that moment.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie. I lost one of our plates when that happened.
Plates?
Because I kind of like plopped it down on the ground and it shattered.
Oh shit. Okay.
She's like, no.
Literal plate. Yep.
Yeah, I was upset. And then
Joyce's ghosted look on her face when she realized he wasn't there.
The whole thing turned somber, and throughout that, the Joyce look, everything, and I went from angry to bawling like a little baby.
I was there too, man. Oh my gosh.
I wasn't even drunk.
I told you I would. I told you I would probably cry
seasons.
Still if I rewatch it right now. I'll probably cry again, knowing that that's happening. Anyway.
Yeah, this episode was powerful. One of the reasons why it got to me the most is it wasn't just the fact that Hopper's gone. It was the fact that Hopper and Joyce were just about ready to start diving into that relationship. He has finally pulled the reins in on what he needs to do to be a dad, and you see it through that note he wrote his daughter.
Okay, can I add to just add? I'm gonna make a one statement to add to what you're
Mhm.
saying. I would say the thing that made me more emotional about what you're sharing was my focus on Eleven's
Yeah.
feelings of what Hopper's telling her through that note. That's what messed me up.
Yep. And that's the part that actually got me the most. Like I was saying there, and then you realize as Eleven's going through this, and you see the devastation on her face. She has quite literally lost everything.
And she's crying
She's
too,
having to
like while
move.
reading.
She's lost the person that she thinks of as her father, and she's lost. She's seemingly lost her powers. Everything that gives
Right.
her any use in life, to her, everything that made her special and was special about her life is now gone.
Mm-hmm.
It, crazy.
It is crazy.
No, they did a good job on building up that dread. Like, yeah, guys, this just happened, and this is the repercussions of it. So now they got to figure out how to pick up the pieces.
So, not to end this episode on the real super jury, but I want to just backpedal a little bit and just maybe list off our favorites, favorite moments leading up to that emotional twist. The first one I want to throw out, and I think a lot of us are going to jump on this. No, Matt already shook his head. No, so I'm going to save my moment because I don't want it dampened by Matthew. Matthew, what was your favorite moment? I'm going to give it to you first. And don't contradict what I want to share. Just give me your favorite moment, and then we'll backpedal to mine and what I think might be Nick's. Wink,
Uh,
wink, nudge, nudge.
uh, I think my whole favorite moment was when Elle uh, got to Billy, and then
That's another
Billy.
emotional one, dude. There's
That was my favorite. That was my favorite one. Like in that whole season 8, that was like he
I'm
knew
hmm.
that he was a bad
Mhm.
person, and he wanted to be able
Oh,
to be the person that. I'm sorry.
no,
Okay,
no,
fine.
no, no, Matthew,
I just
no,
want to
no,
talk.
no, 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 stop. I'm covering my face because I'm feeding into my emotions. I'm not trying to stop you. Keep going. Keep going. I'll add to what you're saying. Keep going.
And the moment that he makes the decision to stand in between the Mind Flayer and Elle and take on the whole thing and get killed.
You know what that show did? What that moment did, Matthew? That not a lot of shows can pull off is taking a character, making us hate his guts, and make us feel nothing for him, and then placing was one of the biggest redemption stories out there by showing us what ruined him as a human being, showing
Mm-hmm.
us the damage he grew up with, and then suddenly, crap, your realization before the sacrifice is like, dang it, I don't want to feel sorry for him. What are you doing to me? No. And then
Mm-hmm.
breaking away from the evil possession that's overtaking him, 11 connects with the child version of him, and that opens him up emotionally to be able to break away from the Mind Flayer's possession just long enough to freaking sacrifice himself and make us feel like crap for him. No, we still don't love him, but it makes us feel bad for him. It's like, no, and that right there is incredible writing when you can take a villain and make us hate his guts, every aspect about him,
Mm-hmm.
and then spin our feelings on him just for a moment. Like, going back, we could still find reasons to justify hating him or wishing he'd be punished. but but you write it in just the right way, and suddenly you've ringed our hearts in a different direction that we were not willing to go. And I've got another show outside of this one that almost pulled off the same thing. Little teaser for all you guys listening to this breakdown, if you guys get this far into it. Matthew, anything else about that moment? I kind of stole a little bit from that from you. I just wanted to elaborate on that I shared the same feelings that maybe you did.
You thunder thief.
I wasn't trying to steal Matt's thunder. I was just trying
It's all good.
I was trying to share with a best friend that I think I felt the same way.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? You kind of
No. You're
okay.
right on the money. Like,
Okay.
granted, like in the beginning of this whole season, I actually started to like Billy.
Stop humming, Nick. I can't cut that
But-
out. Sorry, dude. I can't.
Like,
You're on the same
in
track
this
with
one moment, it is essentially you're just like,
Sorry.
he was a good person, but he was so broken from what happened to him in the past that he couldn't like shake the way he was because he needed to be the man, so quote unquote.
He was buried under that trauma.
Yeah, and then the whole like firework fiasco, just bombing the crap out of the Mind Flayer. That was a good battle scene.
I love the lead up to that moment where Lucas is suggesting to Max that no, we need to get all these fireworks. And she's like, really? We're gonna destroy this monster with fireworks? Kind of give him that whole, are you kidding me? And then at the end, Lucas gets that whole, woohoo! See, we did it. It actually, or no, he goes, we actually worked. When they use all the half a ton of freaking fireworks.
And then they used that one that they like put together and taped together, and it shot directly into the mouth.
Mm-hmm. Classic. That right there could be a scene from a video game, man. They need to make
exactly.
Yeah. Nick, aside from the emotional, we all agreed on the ending. Me and Matt just kind of pointed out Billy's redemption story. I kind of wanted to transition to a more lighthearted, really fun scene that Matt was not on board with. And I don't care, Matthew. It was so wonderful. Nick, I think you know what I'm talking about.
Turn around, look at what you see.
We can't do it justice. Sorry.
The mirror of your dreams.
Sorry, Nick.
Make believe I'm everywhere, given in the light. Written on the pages is answer to a never-ending story.
I'm going to overlay that exact scene with your vocals, and then I'm going to tell the listeners right now, I am so sorry that you did not that you didn't experience the actual scene, but hopefully you did. Okay, but here's the thing: it's not just the song, Matthew. If I may make a counterpoint to your head shaking of it being a scene that you even want to put on your personal list because for whatever reason you didn't enjoy it. Tell me you didn't enjoy a moment of it.
No, I enjoyed it.
Second.
I just didn't like the fact that she made him do it in order to actually help him.
Okay,
It could have cut out like a whole.
You know what? We're not here to argue about the logistics of the plot with that moment because yes, I've seen breakdowns where people on YouTube have ripped apart that scene saying, you know what? There's a lot of pain and sorrow that could have been avoided if freaking Susie hadn't done. But I'm not going to do that right now. I'm not going to.
Yeah, a lot of people are blaming her for Hopper dying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to take that angle. I just, as far as moments, yeah, not what it did.
Or is he?
No, okay, hold on. We'll get to that in a minute. But Matthew, plot logistics aside, like I'm excusing the idea that this show took a moment and made it a musical for 30 seconds. Okay, I'm taking out all the plot logistics here, and I just want to say that one of my favorite moments was Dustin finally connecting after 9. It's kind of like in season 2 where they waited till the last episode to reunite with 11. They did something similar where they made Dustin look like a fool, to his friends, and his friends didn't believe he had this girlfriend that was supposedly hotter than DB Cates. Phoebe Cates. And I'm regardless of that opinion on her appearance, they finally show us a really nerdy, super cute nerdy girl who is like somehow infatuated with our buddy Dustin, and to the point where they have pet names for each other. Dusty Buns, really? Yeah, she went there, and I'm not against it. No, it was one of those over the top, super corny moments where they took a really, really popular song and we're like, we're gonna make this a musical moment. And like I said, plot logistics aside, one of my favorite moments ever is where all his buddies, including Dustin, was like, realized Susie's real, first off. And for a moment, you could kind of see Robin's endearing reaction to kind of like she's a little surprised too, but kind of like, oh, that's kind of sweet. And Dustin or Steve is just kind of like, what the hell is going on? And then what the beautiful part of the whole thing is when she forces him to sing a song, because they have this thing together where they sing this song in order for Susie to help him solve a mathematical equation that he should already know, but he's drawing a blank, so he's relying on his girlfriend. The girlfriend's like, no, you're going to sing me this special duet that we do because I miss you too much, and you're going to do this regardless of you saving the world. And then they bust out into the Never-Ending Story song. And
thanks, Susie. You killed Topper.
And while this song is playing, we get a montage of pan around scenes where this radio signal is being broadcasted on all the PA systems, apparently, to where the Russians, Hopper and Joyce are hearing it. The boys, Steve and Robin in the car are hearing the song. It's on all frequencies. Yeah. They switched
the single for it because
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just focusing on the fact that everyone is being forced to stop right where they're at. Again, plot destruction set aside. Everyone's being forced to listen to them sing, and it was cheesy. It was beautiful. It was cute, and it was funny because of everyone's reaction to them singing it. And
some
go
of
ahead,
them
Matthew.
actually started singing with them too at the same time, but not into the radio.
Yeah, not directly. Maybe mouthing the words. A couple of the characters were like, what is this?
And
really
humming.
happening?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm so sorry. I think I stole your thunder too, Nick, because I literally spent that whole time talking. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Well, no, this was one of your guys. Both of you.
We both shared this. Yeah,
as
we
a-
both shared this excitement. Give me your secondary thoughts on this, Nick. Let's give you a minute to
No,
speak
it's just
on it.
the fact that they're what the hell thought, like they're running, trying to get away from the creature. They're trying to do all this. They're in the car, and this song is playing.
Like
It's
you,
just
like they show
Really?
they show in the back window of them driving away with the car, and you see this big shadowy thing coming after them, and they're singing this amazing song, and they're all listening to this song while they're driving away.
And the number he needs is actually a number that represents the energy released in quantum of electromagnetic radiation when it's divided
Okay.
by its frequency. It's called Planck's constant.
Yeah, you went ahead and researched the whole I'm kidding. The props. Props. Yeah.
And
Nice
actually,
little nerd note. Yeah.
this just for everyone's information, they messed up. This is one of the mess ups in the continuation.
You've had
The
no
Planck's-
flubs this whole breakdown, and now you
Yeah.
give us our one at the end here. All right.
The Planck's constant that they used in the show was today's Planck's constant.
Exactly.
Planck's constant has changed over time because they've been able to get it more and more accurate. So
Ah.
back then, the number was different.
Creative. Yeah, that's creative.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, not creative. I mean, that's funny.
I love that.
I'm gonna include this just for a moment. I don't. I'll,
Around. Look at what you see
whew.
in her face. The mirror of your dream. Make believe I'm everywhere, even in the light. Written on the pages is the answer to a never-ending story.
I love the camera pan arounds while they're doing this all out of nowhere music video, where all of a sudden it went from acapella. Yeah, just like that, Nick. Where it went from acapella to full instrument with them.
Didn't it show like parts and pieces of them during the story too at the same time?
Nope.
No.
Nope. No, it was.
I could have swore they
no,
showed the dragon, the luck dragon.
Nope. I mean, you might have watched a music video put out there online where it was cut with that, but in the show, while they're doing it, they are cutting scenes of everyone listening to them over the radio, and with all these confused looks of like, why are they singing? We need help. All we gotta do is queue up Netflix, but let's queue up that later. We've already talked about that moment. I wanted to play that because I'm like, man, she's got impeccable harmonies with him.
Dusty Buns.
Sorry.
He queued up. Did you queue up the actual scene?
Yes.
Fair enough. Go ahead. We'll sit here and let you watch it. No.
What are we working on now? Just to wrap up.
Okay, let's just. Is there anything else we
forgot
talked
about? Patsy Cline and She's Got You. Sorry.
Wait, hold on. No, you're fine. Okay, we talked about the sad moments and feelings at the end, but we didn't open up about the details. Then we kind of backpedaled a little bit just to talk about some of our favorite moments. You and me talked about the Dusty Susie duet with Planck's Constant. And then let's see if is there anything else noteworthy in these layouts. We did the he mentioned Billy's tragic revelation of his broken childhood and his sacrifice at the end, so we covered that too. And then at the end, as far as details go, Hopper gives Joyce the go-ahead to pull the triggers, and then she realizes he was still in that area when everything went off, seemingly disappeared with the notion that Joyce thinks he was disintegrated with everyone else. And then there was a brief moment, a cameo by Dr. Owens himself, that we saw in the previous season, where he worked alongside helping Samwise Gamgee. I mean, Bobby.
Bob
Newby. He's like, can you have to get down to the computer to shut off the security thing, and you have to. He's like, how's it operating? He said basically it uses BASIC, and he goes on showing off his nerd card about knowing everything about BASIC, and he's like, I'll teach you sometime. So that's the Dr. Owens we're talking about, and he shows up with like a military force only for like a few seconds, and we're like, that's a weird cameo. Obviously, there's going to be something in season 4 maybe that he comes back for, and so it's kind of very like, oh, what does this all mean? And then we talked about the emotional impact right off the bat about Eleven getting the letter from Jim Hopper, and Jim Hopper narrating that father-daughter letter that just got all of us sobbing and eyes wet by the end of it. Now, I think the only thing else we need to cover, because it was kind of all the main plot points, I think we all need to talk about, and Matt really wanted to talk about it, the end credits scene. And there's a few theories online and some breakdown videos that give us an idea that there could be two possibilities, at least two big possibilities behind what was said in Russian during this end credit scene. Matt, did you want to lead into it or say anything about it?
Before we go into that, though,
Okay.
I actually want to recall a song that while you were away, me and Nick Nick was asking me if I remembered it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So there's a song from season 1 that starts playing when they find Will
Okay.
and Elle's missing. It's Peter Gabriel's Heroes, and
Okay.
it plays at the very end, where in the background when they're taking the U-Haul and leaving.
Mm-hmm. Leaving Hawkins. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was
Yeah. There's a little bit.
that was a
of,
good recall.
little bit of weight, a little bit of nods, a little bit of emotion connected to that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Matthew, I just kind of heavily alluded to what the end credit scene could be.
Yes.
Why don't you give
Yes.
us the scene breakdown of what happened in that end credit scene?
So at the end credit scene, you see 2 Russian soldiers coming around. One's got like this big, massive thing full of steak or meat, some sort of meat, and he goes and grabs a prisoner, and before he opens up one of the doors, the guy goes, "No, no, no, not that one. That's the American. We need the other guy." And the other guy is like some Russian, like
Someone not American.
yeah. So they grab him out, and then they throw him into this cage, throw the meat inside the cage, and all of a sudden the door opens up, and you see a Demigorgon
But
coming out.
but
But what?
but it's not a normal
Yes, it's not
Demigorgon.
no. It's actually, it comes out like it's like one of the, like a cross between a dog and the old Demigorgon.
But not just that. There's a very interesting, very different color to this Demigorgon that
Albino.
yes, everyone online
Yes,
is calling it an albino Demigorgon.
because it's gray.
It's very
instead of
pale,
black.
very pale
Yeah.
in color. Yeah.
Um, there's also the other possibility. It could be we've only seen the male or female of the species, and this is now the other gender.
Potentially, that could be a thing.
And there is a theory out there about the American that the guy is talking about could be dun 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 Hopper.
There's, and interestingly enough, though, there's a second human suggestion, and I don't know how much weight is placed upon the Hopper thing, but a lot of other breakdown videos have made the claim that they definitely don't think it's Hopper. But here's my reason why I think it would need to be Hopper is. For me personally, as much weight as they placed upon the character growth of Hopper through all 3 seasons up to this point, I feel like I would consider this personally, even though he was there in the moments before he disappeared, I would consider that an off-screen death. And for a character that is so beloved by many, many fans, I think the Duffer Brothers would be doing a major disservice to allow Hopper's legitimate death to be an off-screen occurrence. And so if they're truly trying to kill him off, I would think, in my opinion, as a fan, I would want to see something a little more heroic or a little something more real. And we've seen the Demigorgon. They're not afraid to show gore and horror in this show. So if they're going to show us Hopper dying, I think they would at least show him dying and not just make him disappear. I think that's my biggest
I think they left it
problem.
ambiguous on purpose.
Yeah, that's my biggest problem. And so there's a theory as far as who the American is in the end credit scene. It's kind of like split down the middle. There's 2 or 3 opinions that yes or no or someone else that it's Hopper. But there's also the theory that maybe it's
Dr. Brenner.
Papa.
Brenner Papa. from season 1 with flashbacks during season 2 of him possibly being alive. So, and just because it's not Hopper in that end credit scene doesn't mean that they won't tease us of Hopper's survival at early on in season 4. Yay or nay, you never know.
Or he could have
Right.
been knocked into
The Upside Down.
the Upside Down.
Yep.
And Hopper's such a badass, he could still survive.
Like, yeah, like on hashtag justice for Barbara. We're so sorry, but we think Hopper probably would stand a longer chance in the Upside Down. But
He did take on the Terminator.
true, and he was Hellboy for a moment, briefly.
It's not a tumor.
Well, guys.
I got some chapter 8 pop culture.
Oh yes, let's throw those out there
Stuff.
before we finish. Yes.
When you see,
Hold on. Other than Never Ending Story, right? Because that's just...
That's the biggest call out ever. You can't.
Yeah,
That's not
don't worry.
That's not a hidden thing.
this next one I'll just lead with turn around. I'm joking.
If you guys weren't familiar, it was a huge showcase song. No, go on.
When you actually see the first time Susie Q's room, you see that she is obsessed with wizards. Her wall, you see posters of like the Wizard of Oz and stuff, and you actually see, if you pay attention, close up of a book she's reading from 1968, A Wizard of Earthsea. Really popular book back then, and it's actually a really good book. I love it. But she also actually talks about that and kind of references it in according to Dustin, like he's one of the wizards. Yeah.
Yes.
Another
very
one
nice.
that they do, and it was very 80s of them. They do the whole like tabloid special quick movie report, the TV news report, and there's this whole thing. It's like, welcome to hell. And it just like says all these bad things are happening, and it's all connected with hobbies like Dungeons and Dragons and Satanism, which was a big rampant thing in the 80s. Everyone thought anybody that played D&D was a Satan worshiper.
A cult. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another big thing, now that the mall is destroyed utterly, both Steve and Robin need to find a new job. So they try to stick together. They go to the local movie store. I know. When was the last time you saw a movie store?
The boon of the 90s.
Yeah. But they go to the video store and they try to apply for the job. And one of the things the manager tries to get them to do is list their favorite movies. And they list some humdingers. And you find out that she's a little bit more cultured than Steve. Robin lists movies like The Apartment, Hidden Fortress, and Children of Paradise.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve goes with the definite like slapstick Animal House, the Star Wars movie with the teddy bears, and the movie with Alex P. Keaton, which he's talking about Back to the Future, because he doesn't even know the name.
Right.
In here, you also actually harken back to the beginning of the season where they're doing a lot of references to Phoebe Cates. There's actually the cardboard cutout of her in the bikini from the scene from Ridgemont High.
Ridgemont High, yep.
Yep. So we get confirmation that
Past times
that's
in
what
Ridgemont High.
that's what Dustin was trying to say that Susie looked like or was hotter than.
And then the last thing you actually see the Dungeons and Dragons book one more time when they're packing up stuff to get ready to go. It looks like they're leaving Will's Dungeons and Dragon material for Erica to unleash her inner nerd.
Right. I love that little inner growth and that little secondary character. She's all hardcore. I'm not a nerd. Now y'all are nerds. But she likes My Little Ponies, and Dustin basically shut down her skepticism and
Whole world.
and criticism of understanding what a nerd is. I
You're a
love that.
nerd.
I love that.
Your mom's a nerd.
And he points out that she loves math too, because she comes up with like these like super insane answers, and she's like, "That's not nerdy. That's just me paying attention."
Yeah, it's like
Sorry.
something about like you like math or something like that, and I think didn't she admit to liking math or something? And it's like that. That makes you a nerd too. Like you like something like that. Boom. You in the category. You in the family at this point. Nicholas, Matthew, were there any additional thoughts or feelings other than we loved this frickin' season? Any other little tiny details, even if like a callback of something maybe you forgot that we covered, or maybe you think we might have missed, or are we good to just conclude on this happy, fun note? Turn around.
Oh my God.
Guys, come on, all together. Come
And
on.
on that note,
Harmonize. Oh, anyway, all right.
I quit.
All right, you know what? I'm not going to make anyone linger any longer. This, guys, I think it could be considered one of our... We've done deep dives before that have been fairly lengthy, but I got to say, this is probably... just for the amount of things we had to talk about, share our feelings on, and even just like the details and breakdowns of these things, I gotta say, 9 episodes of season 2 is probably, I'm scared to say, half as long as this one. I think it's true, because
And it's probably my fault because I wasn't there for that one. You had
well,
Lynn, and you guys were a little bit more structured, and I'm not. I don't know.
you know what? Get off the high horse, Matthew. Stop being the rebel. You're already a redhead. You're rebel enough. You don't need to use excuses. All I'm saying is, I think there was just a lot in this season to gush about, and I don't think any of us are ashamed or care how anyone else feels about this. We hope that if you're listening to this whole thing, that you were fans of our material and definitely fans of Stranger Things, because that's what this whole episode was about.
And if you haven't checked it out yet, do so now and catch up, because at least give like the first 3 episodes of the first season a go.
Oh my goodness. Definitely watch it.
Exactly.
I'd say I might have to treat that as an outtake, Matthew, purely on the merits of the fact that this will be about the 4th hour of the episode that they're listening to it, and that if they haven't seen it yet, they're never going to, because we broke it down for them.
So, my nerd rating for this, I would give this a full nerdtastic.
Any of those not in the know, we're about to refine our total rating system and give you guys meaning of what it is. But that's a 5 out of 5 on Nick. And I have no reasons or qualms to take down that number at all. So I'm also give this a nerdtastic. Matthew, rounding out. Don't be that rebel. Come on. Show us the love, Matthew. Okay, we're pausing. I thought it was for dramatic effect, but I think he's being talked to by family. Dang it!
No, my controller died.
Oh, okay. Well, make it dramatic then before it dies again.
Um,
I'm gonna pretend like
I
you
don't
were.
even know if I could do it again.
Let's pretend
without,
like let's
laughing at it
pretend.
now.
Let's pretend. No, stop laughing. Let's pretend like you were building for dramatic effect. Matthew, I'm waiting. What's the rating, dude?
It's a not nerdy.
What?
I'm
what?
just kidding.
What?
No, it's a nerdtastic.
Oh snap! There's not 4 of us here, but I think that qualifies for a Nerdocalypse rating.
There we go.
I just made that up on the fly, guys. It's nothing official, but what it means is that all of us gave it the highest of praises, and that you'd be a fool not to get into it.
Nerdgasm.
Yep, we hope that all of you...
And from the 80s, I pity the fool.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. T. I will concur with Mr. T in saying that I hope you guys join us for the Season 4 deep dive. No confirmation on release times or when they're going to begin production, but be assured we will be reporting on it in our normal nerd podcasts. To round things out, and wrap this up. Thank you for joining us. This has been one of our first legitimate face deep dives. No, this has been one of our first true deep dives where we've just gone existential, crazy detailed on it. We want to do more of these, guys. Leave your comments, likes, and ratings down below and let us know if you enjoy this level of deep diving and if you want to see more of it. And also throw out some shows or movies that you want to hear us do these kind of deep dives on. I think that'd be the biggest thing that would encourage us to do more of them. I love gushing and doing spoilers about things that we've all watched as a group. And I know I love listening to other podcasts who do the same thing, where I've watched a whole show and then I'm just listening to these guys gush about that said show. I love doing it. Matthew.
Just to kind of reiterate your point, you guys have watched Designated Survivor. I actually just started watching it, and I'm already on season 2, episode 5.
Okay.
And I started like a day and a half ago.
Was that right?
Well, dang it. I started it. I didn't get back in because I had several other things I was trying out. So props to you, Matthew. Nick has gotten all the way into it. I only got into the pilot.
It's just like a roller coaster after roller coaster after roller coaster, and you're just like sitting there, just like, I gotta keep watching.
But Matthew, that being said, rest assured to all our nerds out there, they may see a deep dive on it, as well as several other shows that I'll recommend off air, so as to not drag out the ending of this one.
But
my bad.
No, you're fine.
I just had to back
know.
up your saying.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. Nick?
I said, where's all the places they can find the show?
Well, here's where you start. First off, we're in more places than ever. You're probably listening to us in podcast form, which is probably one of the best places to do so if you're down for really long form podcasts, because that's where you're going to get 2 to 3 hours a week of our crazy selves talking about all the latest in pop culture. Guys, we can be found across iTunes, now Spotify and Stitcher Radio and Google Play and any other secondary sources out there. But those are like the top big ones out there. We're across all of them. If you want to see our ugly mugs talk about said stuff, guys, go hop on over to YouTube. Seek out Nerdentials. That's literally all it is. The channel is called Nerdentials. Seek us out there. Watch a plethora of other content, including gameplay videos, long-form podcasts, and shorter segments where we get deep and dirty about controversial pop culture topics. Guys, not too heavy, we always keep it light and fun. Guys, all of these things, every little bit of this, including written articles, if you're interested in some light reading, head over to our main website, nerdentialsmedia.com. That's right, folks. Nerdentialsmedia.com. That is your source for everything nerdy and essential in your lives that we bring to the table. That being said, I'm going to close this out, guys. For me, Nick, and Matthew, this has been your Nerdy Essentials. As always, nerds.
Oh, sorry.
You're making this different than it usually is, Matthew. We'll see you
on the other side.
Nope. I'm going to do that one more time. As always, nerds, we'll see you on the other side. And Matt's just going to laugh at it. That's fine.
That's awesome.
We're going to beat him like Reddit stepchild later.
Alright, guess what?
See you on the backside.
There's...
At least it's not the underside.
No, oh my god, Nick.